Oh my goodness. I just realized I had myself muted to start the show. What an absolute disaster. You know that we're rolling differently tonight, guys. Excited to talk about these fights. Absolute cold open to the show now. Wanted to say we brought on our guy Cody. Excited to talk to Blood Money MMA Bets for the very first time. Brand new friend of the show. And we've got another guest waiting in the back. But without further ado, Cody, how are you tonight, brother?
Great, man. Great. Yeah, man. I seen the mute was on. I'm like, is this happening? I was trying to, and then I was just getting on my phone to bring it up to be like, can I hear it? Is it put me on some mute? But nah, man. I'm super happy to be here. I've been watching your show for a long time, man, and just happy to be here. Get some good information from you and the other special guests, which is smart, man. It's a sharp panel, man. I just can't wait to break these fights down with you guys.
Absolutely. Let not our tech skills be an indication of the content that you will get this evening. Like to think that we're going to bring you guys very good information. And who better to do it with than our guy, Gordo Gambles, the guy who's going to be hosting the Dana White Contender Series breakdowns with me as well, like we've been doing in the past. Friend of the show. You know him. You love him. He's back in the building. Gordo, how are you, my brother?
Hey, Liam, man. Thanks for having me on. Long time no talk. You mentioned it, man. Dana White Contender Series starting up next Monday. So I am hyped to be breaking down with you weekly. So why not break down this card with you as well, man? It's a really fun one, top to bottom. I know Cody and I are both going to be in attendance this weekend. So it's going to be a fun one for us to go watch there live, and even more reason for me to listen to you sharp guys and hopefully make some money off it as well.
Hey, I love to hear it. Two guys that are going to be at the fights. Me and my man Gordo touched down in Columbus before, got to take in the fights at that time. So excited now, just seeing all the connections that we make in this MMA community time over time. Shout out to the Jewish bettor as well. Dropping a dono in the chat, getting the ball rolling today. Appreciate you big time, friend of the show. And guys, we got plenty of fights to discuss. So without further ado, let's kick it off in the flyweight division. There's going to be a lot of flyweight action on the card. Good stuff always. And we got Ode Osbourne, the Jamaican sensation, taking on Asu Almabaev. And Almabaev is a guy who's going to be making his UFC debut, and he fits the archetype of a couple of these guys that have been coming in recently. The guys that look really shiny off the regional scene. They've got the Kazakh flag. They got a lot of wins. They look like they can go out there and get takedowns. They got the spinning attacks. They seem like they have developed skills in all areas of the game, but they're still putting it together a little bit. Haven't necessarily been tested by the highest level of competition. I did like what I saw from the Makovsky fight, though, in terms of getting the takedowns, gritting it out in a close fight. But some of the things that I saw there looked like they could be exploited by some higher level guys in the UFC. As for the Ode Osbourne side, he's a guy that's kind of been hit and miss in the UFC. Looked like he had a good camp, seems excited about this fight, looks like he's coming in prepared, but he's a guy who suffered with the cardio in the past. He's given up some takedowns at critical moments, kind of cost himself some close rounds. And even in some of the fights he's won against Vergara, for example, very close fights that kind of come down to the wire, come down to close opinions. You're relying on the judges to go your way. So Ode has shown he's got some dynamic finishing ability, but in the Brian Kelleher fight, he's also shown some liabilities on the mat. That was obviously early on in his UFC run, but I didn't like what I saw there, getting his guard passed, really making some awkward decisions on the mat. Seems like a guy like this coming off the regional scene with a lot of submission victories could look to attack there. But also when we see these prospects make the jump up to the UFC level, I think most often when they make that stumble, when they make that mistake, sometimes it's putting their head in the wrong position. They're panicking. It's going to be UFC Nashville, right? Crowd's going to be there yelling, screaming. It's not going to be like the UFC Apex Contender Series for some of these guys making the debut. So I feel like this could be a little bit more of a pressure spot for the guy making his debut spot. But overall, Ode Osbourne seems like a task that maybe he could manage here. So I haven't bet on this fight. I will look for an ends by sub if it comes out over 3-1, something like that. I feel like both these guys will be attacking in those positions. I feel like we will see grappling here, but I just don't really know if I trust the cardio on Ode Osbourne, though he is a little bit tempting at the underdog price with the UFC experience. Gordo, do you have an opinion on this fight, my man? What are you thinking here?
Yeah, well, truth be told, the reason why it's Cody as the highlighted guest here, and I'm not really named on the show, is because I might have to leave shortly. I got exams tomorrow morning, so I just want to give a couple of fights to break down here before I go. And truth be told, this is one of the fights I want to talk about. It's one of the fights where I do have some early action on. As someone who is primarily a DraftKings player, this is one that really reached out to me. On one side of things, you have this up-and-coming prospect new to the UFC who seems to like to utilize that grappling to really go out there and succeed and really go out there and put up a good score on the DraftKings front as well, versus a guy in Ode Osbourne who seems to be be very dynamic and probably the better finisher of the two. I think I look at it this way. Ode Osbourne, a guy with incredible reach here, a good advantage that way, but also a guy who's probably the more potent finisher, high level experience, and also someone who is pretty dangerous to go out there and win the moments. However, I don't think he necessarily has the same capability to win the minutes here in this matchup, which is why I'm leaning towards the Asu Almabaev side. I think if we look at the indications or the ways that Ode Osbourne is going to win this fight, it's primarily due to finish, whether it be locking up with something on the back because he was pretty active off his back off the regional scene, or trying to catch something with Asu if Asu really doesn't have the striking to compete at the UFC level. Aside from that, though, I think it's going to be Asu Almabaev landing the more meaningful takedowns, winning the minutes on the ground, potentially threatening something on the mat as well, and being able to be competent enough in the striking to go out there and win the minutes that way. I think that the guy who has more minute winning ability and ability to win and judge scorecards is Asu Almabaev. And although he is making a huge step up in competition, the tape does check out, right? He's still going out there and cementing himself in victory in these rounds. He's showing some very competent striking as well, and someone who I do want to back here despite the UFC debut at a favorite price tag. So scary incentive backing a guy making his debut, but I do think he has the right skills to get it done. I do think he wins this fight where the line indicates him to, and I did hop on an early number there. I think he has more decision equity here, more paths to get it done. The cardio also helps me out there as well. So although Ode Osbourne is live for a finish, I don't think it's too likely of an option. I think it's still sub 40%, something like that. So I do think the rightful favorite here is also Almabaev.
Well, listen, I like where your head's at. Seems like you've got a pretty well thought out opinion on this fight, certainly more considered than mine in this case. And here's the other thing. If you got Khamzat Chimaev, or excuse me, not Khamzat Chimaev, Shavkat Rakhmonov, the two guys that we'd like to see square off. But in any case, you've got this guy who is like the certified Kazakhstan killer, and he's bringing this guy in the corner. He's kind of giving him that fight week experience prior. You see the pictures that they've taken together. I feel like that's exactly what you need to kind of ease your way into this spot. Cody, how do you feel about this debutant? Do you feel like he's got a good chance to win here? Do you feel like he's a deserved favorite?
Yeah, man. When I was going into this fight before doing any tape, because I didn't know who he was, I was kind of looking at it like, all right, the Tyson Nam versus Maxim fight, where when I went into that, I was thinking Maxim did tape study, and I still picked him by slight decision, but I knew that he wasn't going to be able to land the takedowns and that the striking was going to be close. So I went into this fight doing tape, kind of thinking like it was going to be like the same thing. But man, what I seen from Asu, I really liked. Like his wrestling's phenomenal, a lot better than Maxim's. His chain wrestling's phenomenal. His scrambles, his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. His striking's good. He's going to be at a size advantage here, 2 inches of height. I don't know exactly what the reach is, but I'm sure it's going to be, 4 or 5 inches at least of reach. Ode's at 72, and he's just tall and long, and this dude's more short and stocky. But I love his wrestling. I love his chain wrestling. His striking wasn't bad. He throws a lot of spinning stuff, but it seems serviceable. And then Ode, he's got nice straight punches. They're fast. They're explosive. He does a lot of explosive stuff, but he ends up paying for that with his cardio later in the fight every single time. And really, for how explosive he is, I don't think he's that dangerous. Like his 2 finishes in the UFC are over the lowest level of Jerome Rivera and Zaruk Adeshev. You know what I mean? Them dudes got finished in the first round by, Master Z Zogauskas finished them. So I think that the first round's going to be close. I think if you're betting this fight, even live betting might be a good option. Like, because Asu might lose that first round because Ode is just so crisp. He's so fast. He's going to be fast and explosive. And if he can stop the takedowns, he's got a wrestling background himself. But as he slows down, he's not going to stop that wrestling. And I think that Asu takes over heavily in that second and in that third and can finish him. Like Ode, when he makes it to a third round, he's just surviving. Like Vergara was like beating him to death. If he would have just stood up, he probably would have finished Ode, but he actually went to the ground with him because I had a bet on Ode, and I was so happy when it ended up going to the ground with like 2 minutes left and Vergara just let him ground it out. But give me Asu, and I think that he gets the submission, man. I really do think that he gets that third round submission or decision. So I guess you go third round. But inside the distance is like plus 190. That's not too bad. But I got him at minus 150, and I just bet the money line 3 units to win 2. So
yeah, man, I like to see some agreement between our two sharp guests here right off the rip. And the other thing, it kind of supports that read that I had. You think it's going to end by sub? That's exactly how I think it's going to end. And I wanted to give myself a little bit more outs, a little bit more equity, still at over, a plus 250, a plus 300 type of number. Right. But in any case, I feel like I'll be howling if it goes to decision, whereas you'll be cashing that bet potentially because wrestling upside is big. cardio upside is big. And unless this guy drops off significantly from tape, like you mentioned, he should have those attributes, in his favor down the stretch. So let's see how it plays out. But like to see another 17-2 Kazakh product. It's a matter of time until UFC Kazakhstan. All right, you guys just mark your calendars. But next up, we got Sean Woodson taking on Dennis Bzukja. It had been no sooner than I uploaded the Myron Santos document to Patreon. Then the fight was canceled. And all of a sudden I'm going back to the well because I did have Dennis Bzukja tape, but it's from the last time that he was on Dana White Contender Series. And so it's a little bit dated at this point. But in any case, the thing that stood out to me is I had some top line notes. And the top line note said, I'm really not sure exactly how high Dennis Bzukja projects in the UFC. He's a guy that has some upside. He's been training since a young age. He's still only 25 years of age, so could be making significant improvements. I feel like I'm getting better every day. I'm the same age as him. So I feel like me and Dennis have that in common. But also, he's a guy that has really struggled to prove himself as a finisher at this level. And that, I think, is something that he wants to do in order to keep that UFC interest, right? He only got this because it's a short notice opportunity. He struggled to get the UFC's attention because he's struggled to finish at the higher levels in MMA. However, I feel like Sean Woodson is a guy that is a little bit liable. He doesn't train with the highest level pros, whereas you look at a guy like Dennis Bzukja, he's surrounded by greatness, all world champions, high level guys, extremely good training partners. And he's been around that for a long time. He's been around the UFC circuit for a long time. He's been calling for these fights and these opportunities. Sean Woodson is a guy that a lot of money came in on Myron Santos. Line was about to flip. Maybe the bookmaker made the call. Maybe it wasn't the Visa guy. But in any case, it was just a point where, the line is about to flip after opening a significant favorite. This guy's been a favorite in a lot of fights. Has he justified it? Were there a lot of fights you were watching where you said, man, this guy really looks like a minus 400? Oftentimes he doesn't justify that. Even though he's landing a lot of shots, he could drop somebody and get finished in the same round. We've seen that before. We've seen this guy go out there and get dropped multiple times by Luis Saldana, who's not known as being the world's biggest power hitter. So I feel like there's a lot of red flags on the Sean Woodson side. I think that, there's price points at which it makes sense to play him potentially here. I know that the line has moved significantly because this is a very fluid market. It's not a very mature market, just opened up. The fight was just announced. But Dennis Bzukja, make no mistake about it, he was preparing for a fight on this date. Like, he basically had a feeling that there was going to be a pullout from this fight. I've seen pictures of the guy. He looks like he's in impeccable shape right now. So I feel like Dennis Bzukja is about to pull the wool over some people's eyes here and maybe surprise people with a performance where I feel like he's going to come out here in shape. He was sick, allegedly, on the Contender Series when he fought Melsik Bagdasaryan, still took a round off of him. So I feel like he's a guy that is tough. He's game. He really wants this opportunity. So at plus 155, I feel like he's going to fight hard for your money. And I'm going to just wait and see what this peaks out at. It looks like the Woodson Love's going to continue to come in. He's got a big reach advantage. He's got some intangibles that you want to see, UFC experience, no doubt about it. But for me, I feel like Dennis Bzukja, the New York boys can teach you how to wrestle once again. And I feel like Dennis Bzukja has that opportunity. So for me, that's what I'm looking at. Cody, we'll kick it to you first, my man. Am I crazy? Am I out to lunch here?
No, Dennis Bzukja, I mean, he's definitely, I think he's even a tougher fight than Santos on short notice, to be honest. He's well-rounded. He's got decent striking. He's super durable. He's got pretty good cardio. He can fight wherever the fight goes. Good wrestling. Where you're with Woodson, good boxing, super tall, super long, 6'2" with the 79-inch reach, which is crazy for featherweight. But he's got long punches. He works the body well, and he's not really going to take a fight to the ground. It doesn't seem like he's all that dangerous unless he's fighting lower level guys. But even against like Youssef Zalal, he showed a lot of holes in his game. He can be grappled kind of easy when he's fighting any guys with even a little bit of grapple. Like Youssef Zalal was doing pretty good work against him with takedowns in the clinch. And then, yeah, man, like you said, against Saldana, dang, man, he got beat up. He got knocked out like 3 times in that fight, even with the illegal shot, dude. He literally was out cold because I had a bet on him, and I'm like, just lay down, like let the fight end. And somehow the ref let him fight again after being knocked out cold by an illegal knee. So, yeah, I'm not gonna have. I won't have no bets on this fight, but the line should be closer. And I don't know. I guess I'll take. I think Sean Woodson by decision, I guess, but I don't know. I like Bzukja too. To be honest, I didn't get as much study on this fight as I would like to. I already had a bunch of my stuff done, and then I've just been busy doing a ton of stuff. But I looked up Bzukja's Melsik fight, you know, and then I watched his second Contender Series fight. But yeah, man, I don't know. I guess just the experience and then the full fight camp, but no bets or nothing. And I can't blame it. And anybody that got Bzukja, the good plus money, you're probably doing good. It should be like a pick 'em with all the different stuff going on in this fight. I just stayed away, so.
I think that's totally fair. I feel like you could even favor Woodson maybe to -115 and -120, UFC experience, that slight intangible. But I just don't understand what makes him like a big favorite here, except for the fact that he's got a reach advantage. Because I just feel like we've seen the guy get hurt, cracked, dropped twice in his last fight. Bzukja, for all the things you could say about him, he's a quite durable guy. Melsik, known for his power, went after him in that fight, was not able to really put him down. And then you look at the fact that Youssef Zalal has now gone down to bantamweight. He was having success grappling this guy. And, you know, Sean Woodson, he's big, but if you don't know how to grapple, you don't know how to grapple. It doesn't matter how big you are. So that's the one I think fatal flaw to his game. And you look at the guys he trains with, it's not really like a knock on him. I'm just saying, who's going to push him in the grappling in the same way that Bzukja will be pushed, you know, in his room? I don't see anybody. So that's the one thing that I think is a problem. What do you think about this one, Gordo? I know you may think a little differently.
I may too. And truth be told, I was walking around Costco a couple of weeks ago and I see this tall man around me, and it's Sean Woodson. And I had a conversation with a guy at Costco, a very, very kind guy, St. Louis native as well. And I've just moved here recently, so it was nice to see him there. Super down to earth, but man, that guy's tall. He weighs a lot less than I do. And he is a lanky, lanky man. And you know what? That seems to come to mind when I'm going out here and pre-tape. And I was filming my own video for my YouTube here, and I saw the line open up. And I saw Sean Woodson plus money, and instinctively, before even doing tape, I went out there and I bet Sean Woodson at plus money. Now, that line is gone, and my read has kind of changed, because if I think I look back into two of these things here, Sean Woodson to me is a guy who I see as a very good sniper from range, great boxing, great use of his length, and great ability to get off on his game plan. Whereas Dennis Bzukja, from my memory, very poor performance against Romero. It wasn't necessarily the best guy to go out there. He really struggled with finishing people on the feet and didn't necessarily have that same volume that I think would contend with Sean Woodson. After making that bet, though, I went out there and did my research, and I mean, he's called Bzukja for a reason too. It's also his nickname, because man, that guy's got power as well. He trains with a good camp who can implement that grappling. And you go out there and you look at the deficiencies in Woodson. It's people who can take him down, people who can crack that chin. Right. We saw that happen to when Saldana fought him as well. And it necessarily isn't necessarily the guy I want to go out there and be backing at a favorite price tag. And I'm really conflicted onto where to go with this line from now on. I think I'm going to stay where I'm at with the CLB. I think I am still going to pick Sean Woodson, because it is a really tall task, no pun intended, to go out there and face Sean Woodson, fighting him from range, keeping him from distance. And if you don't have that same volume or activity that Bzukja has in this case, you're going to be losing a lot of these exchanges here. Thank you for that, my friend. So to me, Sean Woodson's the rightful favorite here, but not to this extent, because his chin is still a liability, and his grappling under the right game plan for Bzukja could come here and cause some problems. Me, as a DraftKings player, sees this fight on DraftKings and Sean Woodson's at 9.6K. Horrible. No, go away. That's not something we're talking about here. But betting wise, this is really just an interesting matchup, one where I think the guy with more minute winning ability and guy with more who I see having more success in the overall matchup is going to be Sean Woodson. But the guy with more paths to get it done, whether it be with the grappling, if he decides to have a grappling heavy game plan, or the knockout power to get that finish, is going to be a guy in Dennis Bzukja. And I don't mind a shot in the underdog if the line continues to climb.
I'll tell you what, if I was to take a free bet $5 sprinkle on this fight, I would take Dennis Bzukja round 3 submission. I saw this guy, Sean Woodson, knock a man down and get submitted in the same round. So I'm banking on a little bit of durability fall off at the end. But what you've done is you put yourself in a winning EV position, right? You can now arb off your bet. You could cash out for profit, I'm sure. Like you've put yourself in a really winning position where if your mind changes, you have a lot of options. And anytime you're beating the market this significantly, you're in a really good spot. So I think that you did your job. As far as I'm concerned, I'm kind of leaning towards the other side. So I'm just waiting now for my best number, my best entry point. And, you know, then the best man will win, plus money on a fight where we think it should maybe be a pick 'em type of situation. That's fair play in either direction. So that being said, let's move back to the flyweight division, gentlemen. We got Jake Hadley taking on Cody Durden. What is this? The biggest blood feud on the card? These guys are coming at each other. It's on Twitter. You know, it's in the DMs. These guys are really getting after it. So it should be fun. You know, 2 action guys. And the thing that really stood out to me on tape, and I'll kick it to you guys for the breakdown here, but Jake Hadley, I didn't give as much credit as I should have in the first look this week. And the reason being, I thought to myself, Malcolm Gordon, he's got the worst chin in the UFC. Maybe it's certainly up there, bottom 5. So it's like, I didn't know what to rate that win as. But then I rewatched it, and it wasn't the chin of Malcolm Gordon that let him down. It was brutal body shots, really well placed, really technical striking. And we've kind of seen Cody Durden susceptible to being hurt a little bit in his UFC fights. Sometimes gets a little bit tired down the stretch. He can also, though, show these improvements over time. At American Top Team, he's definitely put out a better product over time. He's definitely been showing a little bit better cardio fight over fight. But you also have like a VO2 max, right? Like you have the best cardio that you can get. And I think that that's probably capping out around 11, 12 minutes for him. At this point in his career, he's just a guy that's been doing it for a long time. He's been working hard for a long time. I'm not sure that he could really exceed that. He still fights hard. He's still going to try his best, but that's where he's really not fighting optimally as an athlete. So I feel like Cody Durden's got some chances to come on strong early in this fight, but I just feel like his game plan puts him in a lot of danger here. And, it's something that I've been thinking about over the course of the week where Hadley, dangerous triangle series. That's exactly how he's been submitted twice in the UFC. When you look at the guys that have submitted him, they're probably of a similar grappling level, not really that much higher of a grappling level to somebody like Hadley. And then on the feet, Hadley's a dangerous striker, that I got to give a little bit more credit to. So I think Durden has some power in his hands. I wasn't expecting him at all to knock out JP Buys. Did bet the fight doesn't go to decision there, but I had JP Buys, thought he was going to win that fight. And JP just doesn't have a very good chin either, right? Very small guy. I think that Jake Hadley, very confident guy, a little bit cocky maybe, but he's a guy that I feel like unless he gets rode out to a decision here, he's probably going to look, like the side. I feel like he's a more dangerous fighter overall, more dangerous in more positions. So I think I'm slightly favoring Hadley the more this week goes on. And I didn't think that at the beginning of the week, but the tape kind of changed my mind here. Gordo, I know that you may have to leave. So if you at any point got to leave, just give me the signal. But brother, what do you got on this one?
I'm gonna try to make it through as many as I can. I really want to talk about my Canadian brothers up top, so we'll see if I make it there. But we'll take it one fight at a time here. This one is a really interesting one. You look on the Twitter sphere, or I guess the X sphere now, whatever you want to call it there. And this is one where I saw a lot of love for Cody Durden. This is one where I saw him go out there, be a very popular this week. And on face value, you get it, right? A guy who's been a very dominant wrestler versus someone who was wrestled and controlled his loss in the UFC. It seems to be that clear path to victory. And I was expecting to, I might get a decent line on Jake Hadley, but the line has seemed to go back the other way, right to where I expect it to be. Yes, that path is there for Cody Durden, and I do think it's something that is a live possibility to occur. But I think in order for that to happen, Durden's going to have to fight a perfect fight. He's going to have to go out there and he's going to have to control in 15 minutes. You have to avoid all the submission activity on the ground, and he's going to have to be able to withstand that pace for all 15 minutes, because we know that not only Hadley has better cardio here, but he is the aggressor for all 15 minutes right off the gate as well. And even when this fight is on the feet at start of rounds, he is going to be putting pieces together on Cody Durden. He is a very, very good volume striker, very tactical, uses the body very well as well. And I think he has more paths to victory to get this done. Now, yes, we have seen Hadley put on his back, and for that reason, if Cody Durden can stay safe, the path to victory is there. However, that is a very, very limited path, in my opinion. It is one that's limited to a 15-minute control series, one where he's going to be avoiding everything, and it's not like Hadley's not going to make him work and only expend that gas more often than not. So I don't mind Durden as a DraftKings play because his ceiling is definitely there. But if you're going to go out there and back him, I don't think his path to victory is necessarily too clear. I don't see him too open. Sorry, I don't see him finishing Hadley, so he's really restricted to relying on that cardio, relying on that submission defense, and relying on that ability to stay safe 15 minutes and en route to a decision, something that I don't think is too easy for a guy of Durden's style. I think he's a fun fighter to watch, but I do think that Hadley has more tools to get it done, and I think he is the rightful favorite this weekend.
Durden says he's going to, quote, knock him out. So be weary, brothers. He says he's coming to swing it out on the feet. So you know what that means. He's going to shoot in the first 11 seconds. Ain't that right, Cody? What do you think about this matchup, my man?
Yeah, I think Jan said the same thing too, Blachowicz, and he shot within 8 seconds. So yeah, man, this is going to be a really good fight. I was like Gordo. I was waiting. I was looking. I seen, Hadley at like -200. I'm like, I don't like him there like last week. But then it started dropping. I'm like, man, am I going to get him at like -130 or something like that? And I probably would have laid the hammer on him and bet him pretty big, but it went back up. So I'm just staying away. But the thing is, like Cody Durden, he has underrated boxing. He has good boxing. He has nice little uppercuts. He has phenomenal wrestling, and he has good jiu-jitsu to go with the wrestling. So when he gets you down, he can hold you down. He can take your back for a whole round like he did with Charles Johnson and just, you know, hang on you. And he's heavy on top. So the wrestling definitely, or the jiu-jitsu definitely helps out his wrestling. Now, like you said, man, he's got a solid, like he's got, I mean, he pushes through his exhaustion, but you can tell he's tired by like 7-8 minutes of this wrestling. Like you can tell, but like his last fight, he just got lucky that Charles Johnson was on short notice and gassed with him as they were fighting. But freaking Jake Hadley's good, dude. He's got phenomenal boxing. Like you said, how he worked the body on, he didn't even have to go to the head on Gordon. And then he showed good boxing against Candelario too, man. He was beating him up, made him shoot in on him. But and then he hit the triangle on him. And then obviously Nascimento, that whole fight was grappling. Now that's what scares me, especially at the higher number, to stay away from this. I'm gonna pick Hadley. I'm gonna pick him by submission. But I don't like there's a very good possibility that Durden just takes him down and holds him down all 3 rounds, because usually Hadley's a little bigger than most of the dudes he's been fighting, like even on the Contender Series, like Mitch Raposo and stuff, and he still was getting taken down by him, but then he finally took over because he was just a little bigger. The other thing, like you guys said, Hadley has phenomenal cardio, man. Him and Nascimento were going back and forth in crazy ass scrambles, and he was able to be like at the beginning of the 3rd round, he was just as fresh as the 1st round. He actually did good in the 3rd round against Nascimento. But again, like Nascimento's really good, but I'm not putting him up on like this some superstar level. And he was able to control and take down Hadley every round like it was nothing. So that stays in the back of my head. And Cody Durden could definitely do that. I'm taking Hadley by sub because I think Cody Durden slows down. Hadley could hit him with some body shots as they're fighting, like in the later second and the 3rd round, make Cody take a bad shot. And when Cody takes shots, he puts his head on the outside a lot, man, especially when he's getting tired and sloppy. Now, Charles Johnson, they can't take advantage of that. Even Mota couldn't, but I think that Hadley can, man, with keeping the cardio. I think that he could hit Durden with some big shots later in the 2nd, even early in the 3rd, and make him just take a bad shot, man, and hit a guillotine. Because Jake Hadley doesn't have good takedown defense, but he has phenomenal jiu-jitsu, like scrambles, submissions. He had Nascimento in a couple bad spots. So this fight's going to be really good, especially with the bad blood. It's going to be fun enough just to be there live and watch this without a bet on it. So I'm happy about that. But I was close to betting Hadley if that line would have kept dropping.
Yeah, it's like a jiu-jitsu classic, right? Like he kind of goes to the overhook series and then goes for that triangle. It's nasty stuff. He's really good from there. He's locked up a couple of those, and he's also shown off some diversity of skills. So I kind of like where your head's at, man. It's hard to grapple somebody who's really good at jiu-jitsu for 15 minutes, unless they're getting more tired than you. So that's the thing. Durden is going to really try and have to do damage. That's the way. If somebody's got really good cardio, you got to beat them up. You got to hurt them and take away their will to compete, because, you know that they can keep going if it's just cardio for cardio. So I think that's a big, point of contention here. I think that ultimately, this might be a good live entry spot as well. If you're on the Hadley side and you're able to get live betting opportunities, Hadley might drop the 1st round here. He might get out wrestled. He might get taken down. This might go to a -110. If that's the case, right, then the pre-flop side is probably Durden at +170. But you also have to know going in, my guy Durden might gas out here, and I might have to be looking at these live market exit points, to get plus money on both sides and not have to sweat it. So just a couple things to think about. But I do think Hadley could be a pick'em price, could be plus money at the end of the 1st round here and still win the fight in comeback fashion in round 2 or 3. So should be a banger, really fun fight. And I was kind of tempted by the under. I think it was at a reasonable price as well for this fight. I'd have to go back and double check. But here, let me pull up OddsJam. Yeah, -105 to the under 2.5. So I assume I could probably find a -115, -125, -130 on the fight doesn't go. I feel like this fight's probably not going to go. Bad blood. The one thing is, though, it's kind of betting against Durden. So in any case, it's just a cheaper line, I feel like, to bet against Durden, but I'll give it more consideration.
Yeah,
in any case.
I like that.
Go ahead.
No, I thought I would like that under 2.5 too, because I do think that Hadley can and probably will get it done, but it sucks because I just don't think there's any finishing side from Durden. I don't think he finishes Hadley on the feet or on the ground. So it's like yeah, like you said, you're kind of just betting on Hadley inside the distance, I think, at that
And
point.
that's only like plus 110 though. So that was the thing where I was like, I would almost rather lay the chalk just on the option,
Get both
because
of
again,
them.
I didn't think there was
Yeah.
any chance that Durden was going to knock out JP Buys in the first round. We now know more about JP Buys' chin, and he's been dropped a million times in the UFC. But I was just not, that never crossed my mind that it was going to look like he just nukes him like he's Mike Tyson in the first exchange. So that definitely took me off guard. But in any case, speaking of guys who got nuked in the first exchange, unfortunately, our guy Billy the Squid is back in the driver's seat this week. And I think it's Western Palm Beach, Henzo Gracie, something like that, right? West Palm, something like this was where Frivola was training, Billy the Squid was training. They kind of all get training in different parts of the country, do part-time work in different places. But in any case, you see a guy like Billy Quarantillo, and what do you like about him? It's obvious. The pace. He goes out there. He likes to bring it every time. He will swing it out in the pocket with somebody. He will take them down. He's not easy to submit. I don't think he's ever been submitted in professional MMA, if my memory serves. So he's a guy who's really tricky on the mat, but he has been hurt on the feet a couple of times. He's been rocked. He's been finished. He's a guy who's willing to trade. And he's also a guy that, sometimes he takes too much damage in the early going. I think of the Shane Burgos fight, where normally his trademark is the comeback in round 3, the storm back. But when you take too much damage early on, he was trying to mount that comeback, and he kind of just was running on fumes. So it didn't really come together there. Shane Burgos is a huge featherweight. There's a couple factors that went into that. Edson Barboza, another very big featherweight. Damon Jackson, no small featherweight here. Two guys that are the same age. This is a really tricky fight for me, right? Because I came in thinking about this, and I was like, Damon Jackson at a plus 150 is going to enforce that grappling wrestling pace in the early going. We've seen Billy taken down a number of times, including that the Gavin Tucker fight, right? Somebody else we're going to talk about later on this card. But I think we've seen improvements from Billy in the grappling, a little bit more intensity from him in the grappling, but then he didn't get to show that off at all in his last fight. The thing that was really scary for me is just the turnaround time. A lot of fighters on this card got knocked out brutally in like April and they're here again, or they got knocked out in January, or they got knocked out in May and they're right back into the octagon. And those kind of things are always just a little bit concerning for me. But overall, I do think that there could be some value on the Billy round 3 prop here as well. I'm kind of looking at a few guys for round 3 props on this card where I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but it just seems like the dynamic is really clear where you got one fighter that's probably going to be slowing down. So if the fight gets there, it's going to look like value potentially on that fighter that you think could win. So for me, I feel like, Damon Jackson, there's been a number of fights where he skated by, right? Like the Billy, the Charles Rosa fight, another Gracie Tampa South, I think, guy. But in any case, he like cut him with the elbow. And if he had the sense that God gave geese, to quote Chael Sonnen, he would have just tried to punch him in the face and end the fight. But instead, he's going for every guillotine and pulling guard and doing whatever. And I was like, Charles Rosa just is physically incapable of winning a fight. Like anything that could put him in a position to win, he's physically incapable of following through. But I feel like Billy is not that, right? He will know what to do in round 3 if it gets there, which is open up a can of whoop ass on this guy. Because that's how you get Damon Jackson out of there, is you land damaging shots. He can be hit. He can be hurt. He can be wobbled. He can get a little bit shaky, even in fights where he's winning. His cardio is a little bit susceptible down the stretch. So I feel like all those things favor Billy Q. But I'm not as worried about him getting submitted here as I am him getting knocked out in the first round, because he's coming back real quick. Damon Jackson comes out wild and aggressive, like no regard for his health and safety sometimes. That's how you can knock people out too. You can get hurt. You can get cracked on the way back, but it's how he finished Pat Sabatini. Again, if you had given me 10 choices, Damon Jackson KO1 is not going to come up on my bingo card in that fight. I just never saw it playing out that way. So I don't want to count out a guy like Damon Jackson. He's a gamer. But I also feel like this is a fight for Billy Q to get back on track. Matt Frivola and the gang coming down. He's getting some support from his guys. And I feel like this is a winnable fight for him, a fight where he can enforce his pace. So I like Billy Q after some thought here, but not enough to bet it for me personally. I'm going to let this one play out. I'm probably going to look to potentially target the prop market small here, but not a lot of exposure for me on this fight. Cody, how do you feel about this one, my man? Do you have any bets?
Yeah, this is a super good fight. they're both like you said, same age, matched pretty well, decent striking, decent grappling. Both are like kind of like junkyard dogs, except that Billy Q is a lot more durable when it comes to the junkyard dog. But I do have a bet on Billy Q. I just think that like you said, when you go back and you watch Damon Jackson versus Charles Rosa, man, it's not inspiring at all. Like, and that's one of his wins in the UFC, and he doesn't even have that many wins. I mean, he beat Camilla Kirk, but the Sabatini fight, that does not happen like that many times. If they just keep fighting like weekend after weekend, that doesn't happen that much. But his wrestling isn't all that great. I know he's got a college wrestling background, but his wrestling's like not all that great. He's not shooting in clean doubles or anything like that. He's trying to grab you and pull you to the ground. And for most dudes, he's a little bit bigger then, and that'll work. But like Billy Q, he's 1 inch taller with 1 inch of reach. They're basically going to be the same size. They're both like taller, skinnier dudes for 145. I think Billy Q can either stop the wrestling, or if he gets taken down, he's got the jiu-jitsu to get back up. You've seen it with like Spike Carlisle and other fights that he's been in. Even Gavin Tucker, but Gavin Tucker, man, the old Gavin Tucker was a beast, man. He really was. But I just feel like if their grappling is pretty much going to cancel out, in my opinion. When it comes to the striking, Billy Q's got the better striking. He's way more cleaner with his striking. He's got way better hands. He throws out way more volume, and he's just not as awkward. Like Damon Jackson's just kind of awkward in the striking. Like that first kick that he hit Sabatini with was just like a wild like kick. Like that's like he ain't really throwing them all the time throughout the fight, and he's real agile and nothing like that. He's stiff. You know, he's not the greatest striker, and he's been knocked out. How many times has he been finished, Damon Jackson? All 5 of his losses, I believe, right? And he's been knocked out.
I believe so. Yeah, he's only gone to decision 3 times. I think he's 3-0 in decisions.
Yeah, and he's been knocked out bad. Like Topuria slumped him bad out cold for a while. When he was into PFL, he took that knee to the face by what was it, Kovalev or whatever?
Movlid, yep.
Yeah, and he just went like that was a bad knockout. Like he literally just went face down into the mat and just was there, man, was out. So I'm going to go with the dude. If they're pretty even, I'm going to go with the dude that I think has the better striking, probably the better cardio, and is way more durable. So give me Billy Q in a pretty good back and forth fight until like I expect like the third where he can start taking over. Because like if you watch Damon Jackson fight, like what the heck? Yeah, I want to say Melsick, but not Melsick. The other dude that was supposed to be really, really good. They lost to Darren Elkins and then
here, let me pull up his resume.
Not Melsick, but
dude
from Bosnia that was supposed to be really,
Mirsad Bektic.
Mirsad
Bektic. Yeah, he got clowned that whole fight.
Bro,
and then
the whole fight, and then
end.
Mirsad does what Mirsad does and gasses out with 2 minutes left in the third round and gets submitted. But dude, like he's getting ragdolled the whole fight. Like if he's got good wrestling or any decent wrestling, like it did not show up there at all. And so give me, I think Billy Quarantillo, man. I think he's got the higher ceiling, more durable, better cardio, better striking. Give me Billy Q.
Yeah,
and
man.
I've been parlayed too with somebody later.
You can poke holes, you know, in the wins of Damon Jackson. Pat Sabatini, emotional win for him. Like literally, like got emotional news that week. Came out there, kicked the guy in the face. Cool win, but you know, kind of meme-ish. Then you look at the Argueta win, guy from 135 pounds, who I think is good at 135, but just was clearly undersized, got out-grappled by a bigger man. Camilla Kirk, guy who just got cut from the UFC, I believe. You know, wish him the best in his future endeavors, but literally just got cut today. Charles Rosa can't buy a win in the UFC. That's the recent win streak. So you could definitely poke some holes in it. But he does have skills. You know, I don't want to discredit him. Definitely a skilled fighter, but definitely a guy that has a lot to prove yet in the UFC. What do you think about this one, Gordo?
Yeah, I got to make sure I put this clear. There's a little bit of bias towards some Billy Q this week for me. I am pretty heavy on him for a few reasons. Number one, I've mentioned it like 4 times already, DFS guy. He's great DFS. But number two, reason I'm at this fight is Billy Q, straight up. He put out on Twitter, he had a couple of his friends not be able to make it, so he was giving out tickets and selling them, and I slid into the DMs. He hooked me up with the tickets. Super nice guy, absolute gem. Wish him good luck. Told him I'll buy him a beer after, all that stuff too, but super great guy, and he got me the tickets. I'll be sitting in his section there, cheering him on pretty good, and he is someone I really like to back here. He is such a fun fighter to watch too. He has a great pace, great boxing. Will be the much faster fighter in this matchup too, which is going to be really clear here against a guy in Jackson who, although has decent power, is a primary wrestler and a pretty slow striker at that on the feet. He's a guy who wants to do the same thing as Billy Q and really take over as the fight goes on. But he likes to do so with the grappling, and in doing so, he's able to tire himself out in his own right. He's been finishing all his losses as well, which doesn't bode well when you're facing a guy with such good cardio and relentlessness and pressure as Billy Q has. Billy Q's be the far superior striker in this matchup as well, and I think that even if Jackson's able to get him down, Billy Q's going to have the work rate and all this stuff to make Jackson tire out even sooner, allowing him to get off on the hands and the feet as well. Now, I'm not saying Jackson can't win this fight. I think Jackson's win condition is probably an early finish, because if he's not able to get him out there later, if not able to get him out there early, he will fade as the fight goes on. And for that reason, I'm with you on the Billy Q late round props. The problem is, I know it opened up different on some books. A Billy Q round 3 on Betterline plus 500 only. I was hoping for a bit better than that, but plus 450 in other books as well. Hopefully we get some better odds as more books open. But truth be told, that's really why people are seeing this fight go down as well. And I can't disagree. I do think he has the cardiac advantage here, the output, the striking, and all this stuff to get back on track, melt Damon Jackson, and get a good win here. He's a great guy. I'll be cheering for him pretty huge this weekend.
I'd love to hear it, my man. The one thing that kind of interests me just looking at the props on this fight is Quarantillo by sub is plus 700. I know that he's a guy that kind of preferences punching people in the head, but I do feel like there's going to be a lot of grappling sequences in this fight. I feel like Damon's going to be the one initiating them, but I feel like Damon could wrestle himself into the hole. That's the expression I always like to use, where you just wrestle until you have nothing left to give. And then somebody who's more, composed can submit you. And I feel like somebody like Billy Q can stay a little bit more composed in these positions down the stretch and potentially submit a guy who's only been submitted once. He's very difficult to submit, but he's also a guy that can be hurt. So if he starts getting clubbed here, he could put himself in a bad spot and get subbed. Plus 700. It definitely piques my attention. I feel like I bet that the last time Billy Q won by knockout. So, maybe I'll make the donation again this weekend. But in any case, we can move to the next one here, where we've got a banger, a fight that's attracting a lot of two-way action, a lot of interest from the betting public here. It seems like a lot of underdog love as well on Carlston Harris for some understandable reasons. Very big guy here. Both guys 36 years of age, but he's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, a 2-inch advantage in reach. Renzo Gracie Philly, gym that's had a lot of success in the UFC, especially of late. That's where Jeremiah Wells is going to be representing. But he's a guy that kind of has a really unconventional style. I thought the big red flags for him was getting dropped so much by Semmelsberger in his last fight. We've definitely seen Semmelsberger, huge knockdown rate for this division, like absurd. I think he's got like 10 knockdowns in the welterweight division in like 7 fights or something. So you got to take your hat off to that to some extent, but also you got to say, man, what was happening there? He can't take a shot from him. Every time he's taking a shot, he's hitting the ground. He's looking around dazed. Just really didn't seem like his durability was all there. And against a guy like Carlston Harris, that could be a huge problem. The numbers, the data points would say like Carlston Harris is the one who's been knocked out. Carlston Harris, has lost some fights over the years, but you also got to look at the fact that he's got the length in this matchup. He looked like he put out a better product last time against Jared Gooden, put together a solid 15 minutes, which is something Jeremiah Wells has struggled with. I feel like Jeremiah Wells definitely live to get takedowns in the early going of this fight, because a lot of times you see a guy like Carlston Harris getting his takedowns from the upper body clinch. He kind of has freakish strength where he's grabbing a hold of people, starts spinning, and guys just are off the ground. He's like tossing them sideways and stuff. I don't see him doing that to Jeremiah Wells in the early going. Jeremiah is just a freak of nature. He's very strong. He's a tough guy as well. I don't kind of see that playing out. I can see him getting knocked out in the early exchanges because they both swing like wild men. But I feel like if there's grappling early, I do think Wells will be the one getting on top. I think he'll get takedowns. I just don't know that he could sustain it over the course of this fight. I think Carlston Harris can probably stay composed and patient on bottom. If he gets put there, I don't think he's going to get passed and submitted. Wells, we've seen sometimes he doesn't even want to pass. He just wants to park it on top and try and ride out the 15 minutes. And I feel like it's going to be hard to do that here against a guy who's so violent like Carlston Harris. So I wish I got the early numbers right. I'm kind of way late to the party. But for me, the thing that stood out to me from the very outset on this fight, under 2.5 rounds, is like minus 170. I feel like somebody's going to die in this fight, probably in the first round. But in the first 2 rounds, I just feel like there's going to be a critical error made by somebody that costs them their consciousness in this fight. That could be a joke. That could be somebody getting knocked out with a big punch. But these guys are both extremely aggressive. They both have big flaws defensively. Just screams unders to me from the outset. Cody, how do you feel about this one, my man? Do you have a particular, side on this fight? Do you agree with my read on the under? What do you think?
Yeah, I like to read on the under. Dude, this fight's tough to call. Like, this fight's tough to call. I like just betting a money line. Both these dudes are dangerous, and they both do the same thing. You know what I mean? They're both kind of not that technical on the feet, but throw hammers and can knock each other out. And then both have really good wrestling, and good jiu-jitsu. And then it's hard to like figure out who's going to win that grappling battle, because I feel like Wells probably has better wrestling, but I feel like Carlston Harris being a little bit bigger, and he's super strong too. And that's his thing, is grappling. So I feel like, I mean, that's going to be a back and forth. Like, even if either guy gets each other down, I don't know if they'll be able to hold each other down, because they're both so strong and they both got good scrambles. But it's like you said, man, both these guys have good front chokes. Mainly Carlston Harris has really good front chokes. So these dudes can get a club and sub easy. Like if Harris drops Wells like Semmelsberger did, then he's probably going to hit him with a darce when Wells shoots in all sloppy. But Wells is so strong, man. When he just grabs onto you, like, you can't get away, because Semmelsberger's strong, and that dude was hurt. And every time he grabbed him, he would just pull him to the ground. So I think Wells has the better wrestling here. I kind of think I'm gonna have to go talk to my girlfriend and my daughter after. But I think Wells has got better wrestling here, right? And I think he's got more power on the feet. So therefore, I'm gonna go with Wells. I'm gonna say that Wells can hurt Carlston Harris on the feet. I seen like Christian Aguilera. He didn't drop Harris, but he hurt him for a second on the feet, and then Harris hurt him right back, and then ended up choking him out. But I just feel like Wells is the more dangerous dude, So I'm gonna take Wells, but this fight's so tough to call, man. Like, I'm staying away from it. As far like as the line keeps dropping on Wells, like to -120 and all that, it's making me want to bet him. But like, I already have my 5 bets in, and he's not getting in it. But this is another one. It's just gonna be super fun to watch live as a fan there. But getting plus money on Harrison's really nice to look at too.
I love it, man. And shout out to the chat. No, I am not going against the New York guy. This is a Renzo Gracie Philly guy. I don't like going against the Renzo Gracie guy either. Make no mistake. And I'm not. I haven't bet this fight. I'm just giving you guys my gut lean. Early in the week, I kind of felt like Wells was the side. Still think he can win the fight. But now I'm just thinking, why would I get cute with it? I just feel like if I was going to bet on this fight, I'll bet the under. I feel like it's going to end violently. But for me, the thing is, I think Jeremiah Wells could win the jiu-jitsu battle here. If he's not gassed, if things are going well. It's just a very volatile fight for me. So I feel like, maybe if they did a pure jiu-jitsu match, it would be different. But, there's punches, there's kicks, there's knees, there's elbows, and Carlston Harris, a dangerous man in all spots. So let's be very clear about that. Shout out to my guy, Jewish Better. He's got my back. Who's from New York? No one in this fight. So in any case, Gordo, how do you feel about this one, my man? Break it down for us. What do you think? And who are you ultimately siding with?
Yeah, I think this might be the last one I got in the tank for me tonight. And what better way to do so than with a fight that I have no real strong conviction on, right? It seems to be a very fun matchup. And you know what? I've had some pretty hot takes or not hot takes, but pretty solid conviction for the first 4 fights. This one, not so much. It seems like a true fight that could go 50-50. And I would not be surprised at the outcome either way. I mean, you got powerful guys on both sides who really like to put offense first, defense second, whether that be not only on the ground, but especially on the feet right there. Not very defensively sound, can be rocked, can be dropped. And although Wells hasn't been finished in the UFC or hasn't even lost in the UFC, he has been backed up, was dropped 3 times by Semmelsberger, and against a guy in Harris who does have the powers of the ground game to follow up on that there is some danger there. There's a lot of things to be wary of. And I think this makes it for a very, very fun fight. One where my first instinct, just like Liam, is to bet the under. No need to pick a side when both these guys are going to go out there, swing heavy, and you can bet on violence. And I will be going to do so with Liam this weekend here. But
this guy gets me.
You do, man. What better way to watch fights than cheer for a finish, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but you go out there and you look at picking a winner. And to me, the first instinct is, okay, well, if it's such a close fight, why not take the underdog? Why not take a guy, Carlston Harris, who, if I think it's so close, there is some value there. A guy who has a very good submission game of his own, right? And someone who I think has the power and the unorthodox striking on the feet to put challenges for Wells up there as well. I just can't get the window on it. I think this fight is truly competitive both ways. Wells is the more proven guy at the UFC level, and for that reason, I get why he's the favorite. I think the line's correcting itself to be pretty good in what is meant to be a very, very fun fight. One of my most highly anticipated bouts of the card, because it should be all action, and one where I'll probably look to bet an under.
I absolutely love it, brother. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest? Any other plays you want to talk about? Anything like that? Please, the floor is yours, my man. We appreciate you being here, making some time, brother.
Hey, no, I'm happy to have to hop on here. The main thing is Monday, man. Guess where we are Monday? We're right back here on this channel. Me and Liam breaking down some Dana White Contender Series. Sorry I got to leave early for you guys on the breakdown, but I do have myself some exams tomorrow morning, which means that I get to celebrate in Nashville after they're all done. So it's a good weekend planned ahead. And the Dana White Contender Series tape is ready to go for Monday. I'm excited to break down with Liam. We'll be going on his channel every 2 weeks, my channel the other two. It should be a good alternation every single Monday, 11 p.m. Eastern. Should be a fun time there. Go check that out. As for me, though, I got a full card breakdown on my channel at Plays and Fade Sports on YouTube. You can go feel free to check that out, but only after you're done listening to these two sharp fellas in front of me, above me. Sorry. After my exams tomorrow, I'll be listening to the rest of that. Everything else has to say here. I'll be tuning into what they have to say because I'm trying to make some money on this card I'm attending myself. So I'll be listening to what they have to say and tuning in, taking notes for sure. So I appreciate you, Liam. I'll talk to you Monday. And Cody, man, if you're around, I'd be happy to see you there in Nashville.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get together for sure, man. It's gonna be a good
Sounds
time,
good.
man. Can't wait.
Love it, brother. Enjoy the fights. Thanks very much for making the time, my man. Have a great night. Good luck on those exams. I know you're going to crush it. And good luck on the card. I hope you crush that too, my man. No surprises there.
Thank you very much, guys. Good luck this weekend.
See you soon.
All right, brother. Be well. We'll catch you soon. Thanks very much to our guy Gordo, guys, for making the time. He had told me he had some exams. If he could make it, he'll drop by. So kept him as the mystery guest. He was able to pull through. So really appreciate that. But our guy Cody holding it down. Going to be breaking down the rest of this card. So we'll probably move a little bit quicker here now with just the two of us. And the next fight that we've got up on the docket, my man, is one of the weirder fights on the card, in my view. You got Raoni Barcelos taking on Kyler Phillips, and Kyler Phillips kind of taking some extended time off here. Last time out, I cashed a nice bet. It was plus 550 on the sub prop there. Felt like there was a good advantage in terms of his jiu-jitsu. I will not be betting the Kyler Phillips sub prop in this one, right? Raoni Barcelos, elite on the ground. He's got very good jiu-jitsu skills. He's got good wrestling. He's well-rounded. He's got good striking as well. The thing that I haven't liked is I feel like we're visibly seeing him slow down in front of us, right? Obviously, hard to judge that in the Umar Nurmagomedov fight. For me, it's the other fights, right? I feel like Raoni Barcelos in his prime finishes Trevin Jones. I feel like that's a fight he takes care of accordingly. I feel like when you look at even that fight against Victor Henry, I bet Victor Henry there. I expected a much more honest, competitive fight. I did not expect Victor Henry to kind of run over him there. That was, for me, really alarming. And it said that the market was way overvaluing him. Now he's flipped to a dog, right? But he is in a competitive fight here with a guy who has some dynamic offense in the early going. But a lot of what his game, flows through is the wrestling. He does like to have that kind of in his back pocket. I feel like he's going to get off on shots early in this fight. I feel like Kyler Phillips is going to win the first round in this fight at a pretty decent clip. But for me, the question is he able to kind of keep that going? Because we've seen him kind of fall off in some of his fights. I bet Hadley and Paiva by decision. I think it was plus 500 way back in the day. And that one was a greasy one, but it got across the finish line because he's a guy that kind of comes at you with everything he's got early. And if that doesn't work out, then sometimes he's just, content to fight close and kind of leave it in the hands of the judges. And against Raoni Barcelos, I mean, he's had a couple of those fights not go his way, but he's also had a couple, closer fights go his way. He can win a decision. He's a vet savvy kind of guy. He's had a lot of UFC experience. So curious how you feel about this one, man. I honestly am not bullish on betting this fight. I feel like both guys have some question marks, and talking about those knockouts, 6 months ago, this guy was flatlined in the first round. He's 36 years of age, a little bit older for the division, getting right back in there. A little bit concerning for me. But again, at 36, he doesn't really have time to waste either. He's kind of got to make that balance. So tough for him here to come back against a dynamic guy like Kyler.
Yeah, man. This is definitely, it's like everybody's saying in the chat, this is a pass for me because a lot of different stuff could happen here. Like Raoni Barcelos is a good fighter. Like he's, like you said, phenomenal boxing. Excellent calf kicks, excellent leg kicks. If you watch him fight Said Nurmagomedov, I mean, same kind of style as Kyler a little bit. He was able to beat him with the leg kicks, slow his movement down, and eventually get to him with the boxing because them dudes kick a lot more. Kyler has a little bit better boxing than Said, but yeah, man, Raoni Barcelos, he's like what, a coral belt or something in jiu-jitsu. He was a 5-time Brazilian jiu-jitsu national wrestling champ. Phenomenal boxer, phenomenal, good kicks, man. But like you said, he's getting a little older. He looked a little slower against man, I don't know why I just went through the Victor Henry. He looked a little, like you said, he looked a little slower against him, where other times versus like Saeed, he's nice and crisp, but he is also a short notice fight. He wasn't preparing for Victor Henry style. But man, like a couple years ago, I would take Barcelos, but he's just been looking bad in his last couple fights. Then you got Kyler Phillips, who is good, like he's like you said, he's got a wild style. He's very good everywhere. He's well-rounded. He's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. He's got good takedowns. And then he's just got the crazy, crazy striking. He might be able to win some time with some takedowns. I was pretty shocked when I went back and like watched him versus Song Yadong, where he was able to land a couple takedowns on Song, man, at good timing takedowns. Like he's not grabbing people and body locking them. Like he was just shooting under when he was getting them in big striking exchanges, shooting under, getting the takedown, getting a little control time. Cause he does have phenomenal jiu-jitsu. It's like you said, he's not going to go down and submit Barcelos, but if he can land a couple little takedowns, get some control time, help him win this fight. And not only that, but Barcelos is on short notice too, ain't he? I feel like Kyler was supposed to fight somebody else, wasn't he?
Let me take a look here. Yeah, it was supposed to be Saeed.
Saeed Nurmagomedov, yeah. So then Barcelos, like you said, he's coming in. He's getting a good paycheck. He's coming in. He got knocked out recently. There's just a lot more stuff. I mean, but then you got the Kyler Phillips stuff. So with his failed drug test, was it found to be like just a tainted supplement, or is he suspended in Nevada and he's just fighting in Nashville? Because I've like heard two different things.
I thought that it was a tainted supplement and that he was off suspension now, but I honestly should double check that because I wasn't betting the fight. I probably could do a little bit more due diligence there.
Well, and like, man, like you said with that Holy and Paiva fight, that's what, because I'm picking Kyler Phillips to win this fight, but there's just things that make you stay away from it because like Hani Barcelos, even at this age, is better than Holly and Paiva. You know what I mean? At that age. So it's going to be a really close fight. I don't think Kyler knocks him out. I kind of like the over in this fight. I feel like Hani Barcelos has been super durable his whole freaking career. And that shot that he took from Umar was just weird. It was off that kick. He blocks the kick, and there's that short left hook just came in. He wasn't even like, I don't think he was even expecting to get punched at that time. So, but I'm staying away, dude. This is a pass all the way around. It's going to be another good fight just to watch as a fan, man, because these dudes are both very technical and they're good at what they do. And it's going to be a back and forth fight. So it's tough to bet on this fight, man.
Yeah, my fear is that Hani Barcelos gets knocked out in the first round. That's what I'm hoping doesn't happen here. But just that when I look at how the fight's lined and some things like that, I just have like a weird gut feeling like Kyler Phillips could come in and starch him in this fight. You know, he is a young guy. He's a pretty dynamic guy, all things considered. And yeah, he didn't get Hadley and Paiva out of there, but he did everything else. He absolutely blasted him all over the cage. And to your point, much better fighter here in Hani Barcelos. But if you slow down a little bit, I thought Victor Henry busted him a few times. And Victor Henry, not known as like a power guy, is more of a submission guy. So that was kind of for me the other thing where I didn't pick Umar by KO1, but I was also not on Hani in that fight. I was like, this is a bridge too far. And I feel like that was more evidence in the chamber. So this fight we'll take as a data gathering. But if he's around for one more fight and he loses this one, the value will probably be all gone by that point. Curious to see, Liam, serious question, if you don't mind. If MMA math is a big tell in regards to matchmaking, Cory destroyed Vera and Vera destroyed Font. Does that? Oh my goodness. How did you get me to read that whole thing, dude? You're a legend. Great pull. But in any case, we could just move to the next one, man. We got Ignacio Bahamondes. I got played by my own
I didn't even get that to the end either.
And we got Ludovit Klein on the other side. This is an interesting one in the sense that you got two guys that are both under 30 here, so definitely qualify as prospects, two lightweights, two international guys. The Chilean prospect here, training out of Valley Flow Striking Academy in Chicago, very good gym. So obviously some things that you like to see from Ignacio Bahamondes. He's been making big improvements over time. You see his early fights to now, he's made a lot of significant growth. But the things that are a little bit concerning for me are the fact that, it's not that long ago that you see the tape against Preston Parsons and these guys that when they got on top, he just wasn't prepared on the mat, and the thing that we haven't seen is him get put on bottom for extended minutes in the UFC. And that's the one thing that I'm kind of curious to see. I haven't seen it. So I don't know what to expect there. His takedown defense first layer looks very good, right? Trey Ogden went for a couple of takedown attempts, a little bit half-hearted, but trying to mix it in with his striking, trying to give him something else to think about. And you can just tell that he's very dialed in his striking. He's very focused. He's watching everything. So he can kind of see the attempts coming, move people out of the way, things like that. He does a lot of things right. He moves his foot positioning out of people's way. One of the things I learned when I was at University of Buffalo, and I was wrestling with a couple guys in the club team. And so we started going with some MMA guys and some MMA pros. They would come in to just get rounds because the D1 team, it's kind of like a formal thing. The club team, it's like whoever wants to come. If you're in the area and you're old enough and you want to wrestle, you just come in and wrestle. So we would have a bunch of MMA pros come in from Western New York MMA, which is where Patchy Mix used to train, a bunch of good grapplers. Patchy was not getting wrestling rounds, to be clear, but just like a couple of the lower level guys from the gym or guys that were on the come up, guys with a couple of professional fights. And what I learned was the footwork is so different, and they're very difficult to track down these guys in terms of footwork because they're so good at skirting away. So it's like a whole skill in of itself. I feel like that's what Bahamondes is very good at. I do think Klein is on all the sauce in the world. I looked at his Instagram. My man is working out, and he looks like he's on every kind of thing that he could get his hands on. Bahamondes is one of the biggest lightweights in the division. So in that way, I feel like you've got the short, stocky guy who, his advantage in this fight is that the hips are going to be close to him. He might have to eat some kicks on the way in. Klein is normally a pretty tough guy, but he does start to fall apart a little bit down the stretch. There's a theme that we've discovered on this card, right? Where some guys are just starting to break a little bit in the third rounds. They're good early on. They're contentious. They'll bring it. They'll have a good first round, but it's very difficult for them to maintain that pace over 15. And that, I feel like, is my criticism of Klein. That's why I think he's the underdog here and a deserved underdog, because Bahamondes is a builder. The thing I didn't love is he wasn't going for as many head strikes as I wanted in that Ogden fight. A lot of times he ended up getting caught, going to the body, going to the legs. And people that watch a lot of fights like you and I, we see that and we go, all right, he's doing great damage. He's landing good shots. Judges, for whatever reason, just don't seem to value those kind of strikes. There was one judge who gave Ogden a round. Which one? Like I literally watched that and I just was like, which round was an Ogden round? Because I didn't feel like he did very much effective striking. But I also was like, man, these were still rounds that were closer in appearance than they should have been for the skill gap. I felt like Bahamondes should have just been running laps around him and probably finishing a guy like Ogden. But Ogden didn't really want to engage. I feel like this is going to be a little bit more contentious, more exchanges. This is another fight where a fight, bet that I kind of look at more often than the average bettor is the fight ends by sub. I do think that Klein is going to put himself in a lot of wrestling and grappling situations here because I think he's going to know, his head kick is his best move. You're going to head kick a guy who's 6'3". It's going to be very difficult. Trey Ogden tried a bunch of times. Don't think he ever got higher than the elbow, right? So I feel like maybe if Klein has a couple brain cells to rub together, he's going to come out here shooting takedowns. But Bahamondes has shown he's got a pretty decent front headlock game. He's been showing some improvements on the mat. So I don't know that Klein is the most dangerous submission guy, but I feel like he's going to put himself in positions to try. And I feel like Bahamondes is also going to be throwing up subs. He seems like a Yair Rodriguez type, aggressive off his back, aggressive from every position. So I just think this fight could end up on the mat more often than not. So for me, kind of interested in seeing how this fight shakes out. I feel like it's one of the more interesting matchups on the card, but Bahamondes prospect watch, interesting knockouts, interesting submissions, 2 round 3 finishes in the UFC. A lot of things to like. How do you feel about this one, Cody?
Yeah, man. I like Bahamondes a lot in this fight. He has every single advantage that you can have in a fight. Ludovit Klein, he's decent wrestling, but he's a kickboxer. You know what I mean? He's a striker. Because that's what I'm looking for when I go back and tape, because I know he's going to have to try to wrestle. Well, if you like Jai Herbert was taking him down, reversing spots, you know what I mean? That's never a good look. He tried to wrestle a lot against like Nate Landwehr. He ends up getting reversed. He ended up getting front choked out, which could happen here because that's pretty much what Bahamondes did to Zhu Rong. But to me, like Bahamondes has showed good takedown defense, like you said, against Roosevelt Roberts. He was trying because Bahamondes had Roosevelt Roberts looking like Chris Tucker in Rush Hour. You know what I mean? Like, which one of you kicked me? Because he's just getting kicked everywhere and just getting beat up till he finally got the spinning wheel kick. But he was trying takedowns, and his grappling ain't terrible. And Roosevelt Roberts is a pretty big dude. And then, like you said, Trey Ogden tried a couple takedowns. It's just not happening with this kid. He's like you said, he's super focused, hyper vigilant out there, and he's his switch stance striking, some of the best switch stance striking I've ever seen. Like he just constantly is moving. Like guys can't never set to strike with him or do anything because he's just constantly moving. He's kicking you in the inside of the leg, outside of the leg, coming everywhere. Like I think this kid's one of like the biggest freaking prospects coming up, and he doesn't have that much light on him. I can't wait to watch him fight live. He's 14-4. Yeah, he's got some losses, but then we're early in his career, you know, and he's like 18, 19 years old, a lot of them. He's just getting better.
At 170 too.
Yes, and and he's just getting better and better, man. He's gonna have 8 inches of height, 3.5 inches of reach, and this is gonna be a kickboxing fight to me for most of the fight. Like I don't think that Ludovit Klein, if he lands one takedown, I would be shocked. And I think even if he does, Bahamondes is going to be throwing elbows, like you said, scrambling and get back up. Because Ludovit's, he's not like a legit wrestler like that and jiu-jitsu guy. And Bahamondes is just so big. And like you said, great foot movement, great hips. Even in the clinch, when he's in the clinch, man, he's hard to take down. So I like him. I think he's got every advantage. I think he's the better striker. I think he's way bigger. And I think he's just better everywhere. And I think that he's going to beat up Klein. And this is a good one of them third rounder decision. You know, I got him into I don't usually do parlays, and in my weird head, it doesn't seem like a parlay because, like, all right, so I got Bahamondes anchoring 2 bets. So I got him with Sandhagen, and then I got him with Billy Q. So I got him with Sandhagen, I got him with Billy Q. But to me, it's just like I'm betting Sandhagen and Billy Q and getting better value because I really think Bahamondes takes this. And I don't do that all that often. But when I see like every advantage, like Ludovit Klein, like you said, his best thing is a left high kick. And he's not high kicking freaking Ignacio Bahamondes like he did freaking was it Shane Taylor or whatever? Shane
Young. Yep.
Shane Young. He's not.
I bet Shane Young there.
Oh, he went straight to sleep. So he's not doing that to Bahamondes. Like I said, I'm really high on Bahamondes, man, for being a young kid. Like I want to see what his career does in the next 6 years. And he's going to beat Ludovit Klein. Like Ludovit Klein should have lost to Jai Herbert, but they gave him what was it, fence grab, right? Something, ball shot or fence grab that took a point from Jai Herbert.
I think it was a low blow if my memory serves, but
it wasn't even like a bad one. Yeah, it wasn't even a bad one. So I'm taking Bahamondes, man. I think he works him over, and I think he either chokes him out in the 3rd round with Ludovit Klein, just like with Nate Landwehr when he's just getting beat up and he's got to take a bad shot and he gets hit with a front choke, something like that, because he'll look for a way out, man. And he lost to Mike Trezano. That was a close fight, and to me, Ignacio Bahamondes is way better than Mike Trezano too. So
that's where I got my money back. I bet Mike Trezano at a big plus money tag there, and then I bet Klein as a plus money dog against Devontae Smith.
Yeah, so. Big dog, yeah, yep. And he got the all split decisions. You're cashing them splits, man. You're getting that good.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I used to take even more shots. Like I've started to limit myself a little bit more, take a little bit smaller, total slates. But last year, that was the thing. Is like I didn't want the same emotional roller coaster because sometimes when you get a bunch of these splits, you know how it is when you really are convicted that the fights went your way and you lose 3 or 4 of those in a row. It can be brutal. Oh, brutal, man.
I had Jan Blachowicz, and I'm not going to cry on that one because that was super close. But it's like weekend after weekend, like you said, them splits hurt, man.
Yep, and that's why you just hope that enough of them break even for you. I had Jun Young Park the night that he beat Eric Anders by split. Me too. I had Shane Burgos when he beat Charles Jourdain by split. We call that the New York special, right? They robbed that man, but in any case, definitely, sometimes they go for you, sometimes they go against you. But I think some sharp comments from the chat. The round 3 or decision. I feel like this fight is probably going to go over, and I do think that the finishes would happen later on in this fight more often than not. So that's what I'm definitely going to be thinking about this weekend in terms of those late round props. Another one of those guys I'll be considering for a round 3. Sprinkle, as my guy Clint would say. But next up, we've got Tanner the Bulldozer Boser taking on Aleksa Camur. And I have to say, I used to train at Strong Style a little bit, was around the gym, good facilities, a lot of high-level people come in and out. What I could say about the region overall is there's a lot of good wrestling talent in Northeast Ohio, be that at the local college scene, be that in the surrounding areas, be that the level of clinicians and coaches that you could get in the area as well. Very high level. I would say the jiu-jitsu is definitely on the come up. You know, I actually have had the chance to train with the head instructor. He whooped my ass so damn bad. His name is Emil Fisher, very good grappler who's now the head instructor over at Strong Style as well. So I think that these are guys that will be making improvements over time. 27 years of age. I feel like Aleksa Camur does have some athletic upside. Did I think he looked great the last time we saw him in the octagon? Tell you the truth, no, I did not. I think he's still a piece of clay, right? He's still a work in progress. But I also look at a guy like Tanner Boser at Chalk, and I just say to myself, this is a guy who is exploitable. I have old notes, right? Like I've been doing this for a long time. And so I don't have it on every fighter, but some fighters I have weirdly old notes, right? I have the small Darov fight from Tanner Boser all the way back from pre-UFC days because I wanted to get a good grasp on this guy. He couldn't wrestle then. He can't wrestle now. He is coming down to light heavyweight. He looks good, right? He looks like a hulking Adonis. And I thought against Cutelaba, I was like, man, you know, this is a guy he's got a real shot against. Only got a minute, 3 minutes of gas. Like the guy's going to, put himself into a coma, even if he gets the takedowns off, and he gets blasted on the feet, taken down, past the guard, beat up on the mat, fights over shortly thereafter. It's like, that was not a great sign. That if that's the reinvention at light heavyweight, he's talking crap about the company and the media. Dana White's going to be there with Aleksa Camur in the bag. Like, bro, I got another 15 grand. If you can go beat this guy down, and we'll put you in the rock shoes and t-shirt and everything else. Like, do you not understand what he's done to himself? And this is the last fight on his UFC contract as well, which for me, that was another red flag. Like, last fight on your contract, giving him a guy who's coming back, hasn't been in the cage for a while, but I looked at his social media. Aleksa Camur has been posting for like 6 months. Like, yo, I'm ready to get back in there. Give me a fight. Like, I'm ready to go. The UFC is busy, right? They don't always care about guys like Aleksa Camur, but I think that they were like, fine, give him a shot. He wants a shot. He wants an opportunity. 2 low-level guys, put them together, see how it goes. Tanner Boser has some attention. He's got some fan base. He could win this fight. He's got more experience, way more. But he's also a guy who's very liable to be taken down. The judges don't like him even when he outlands you. You go outland him by 30 punches, you'll still lose. It's like the guy just can't find a way to win a fight. He can't buy a win in the UFC except over guys who are really shot like OSP, unfortunately, who he hit with a couple punches, and then OSP was like, maybe not. But I think prime OSP would put him through the absolute canvas, right? Would probably head kick him into another dimension. So Tanner Boser, a guy who historically fairly durable, but then he's starting to show signs of slipping in the durability. I don't know that 205 is necessarily a better move for him. I feel like it's maybe a lateral move as opposed to, vertical in one way or the other. I feel like he just is doing more of the same. And, I feel like he could get taken down here. I feel like he could get outlanded on the feet, and I feel like he could get potentially knocked out as well. So for me, Aleksa Camur is the value side at plus 135, and probably either bet on him or pass on this fight. What do you think about this one, Cody?
Yeah, man. I'm passing on this fight totally, but I like the Tanner Boser side. I've seen better stuff out of Tanner Boser. Like Camur, man, does not look good. Like even against like against William Knight, he was getting out grappled in that fight. He was getting reversed like on all the takedowns. His striking to me doesn't seem that good. Like he could have improved in the last 2 years because he's the younger guy, but his boxing doesn't seem that great. He's super hittable. Like he doesn't move his head at all. And then he throws a lot of kicks, like front kicks. Like it seems like he's more of a kicker, and he's like a big dude too. But man, Boser is going to be a little bit bigger. Like you said, he's like a hawking Adonis. And then when he fought Cutelaba, I thought that was like an early stoppage because he was like getting up. And when he was on the ground, he was getting punched. So then he started getting up, and Cutelaba had his one arm. And when he's trying, like that was his only move to try to get up. And then Cutelaba held him there and hit him, with like 5-6 shots. But it's not like he was like getting rocked to go down. He just couldn't move, but he was trying to stand up. That's what he had to do to get up. And then the ref just jumped in and stopped it. So I don't think he was like out. And I think he would have came back and beat Cutelaba because, like you said, he's only got them two bursts like that in him. But I just am not impressed with Camur anywhere. I couldn't find on all the tape I did, even back to the Contender Series fight. Like I couldn't find anywhere where he was good. Like he had an okay clinch, but then he was getting beat up in the clinch by Negromanu and by William Knight. And then his striking was okay, but he was taking big shots from both of them dudes too. Like I just really couldn't find nowhere. And then I know Tanner Boser's got good striking. So to me, if Tanner Boser can keep this fight standing, he's going to beat up Kmart. Like I feel like he has way better movement, way better striking, way better defense. He's fast. He moves around. He's got excellent movement. So, and I just watching watching tape, man, I don't think Camur's got good enough wrestling to take Boser down. Like, he doesn't have the best wrestling. Like, he's won some heavyweight fights, but even against Nascimento, like Rodrigo Nascimento, who I would say he's a giant dude, and he has, you know, pretty decent wrestling for a heavyweight and stuff, like has just as good, if not better, wrestling than Camur. And he had a little bit of trouble, like taking him down a couple times. I don't know, man. I think Boser gets this. I actually think it goes to decision because Camur, even though he doesn't move his head and he takes punches right to the face, he was taking like William Knight punches clean, man, and no problem, and still like walking him down. So he is a very tough dude. I think it would have favored him more in the small cage in Vegas. That would have helped him a little bit more than the bigger cage because Boser does have good movement, man. And I think Aleksa's just going to be chasing him, and Boser's going to be hitting him with counter shots. And he does. You've seen Boser hits hard enough to knock people out. So I'm going to take Boser, but I'm going to hit it. I'm going to take him by decision, but not bet in this fight, man. There's so many question marks on this fight, on anything like overs, unders, who's going to win this. Like, they're both, like you said, it's almost low level, like for UFC stuff.
For sure, man. When I started my study, you know, ironically, after that William Knight fight, and I almost hesitate to say this, but I basically had said, like, they had just fought for like the biggest bum in the UFC. And by losing, like, Camur has become the biggest bum. But then, you know, a couple of the guys, you know, got at me a little bit on social media, chirping me, you know, his camp and whatever about being the biggest bum. I was like, yeah, fair enough. He'd whoop my ass. That's true. So in all seriousness, the thing about him is just, I feel like he has actual upside. Whereas I know that Tanner Boser, despite looking so much better physically, is the exact same guy that he was in almost every way that he was when he got to the UFC. And he had the fight. I bet him against Arlovsky big because I was like, how could he lose this fight? Arlovsky is not going to take him down. He's going to outland him easily on the feet. He's going to dance around him for the whole 15 minutes. And what happened? He did that and lost the fight because he throws calf kicks. He throws, like, you know, a handful of body punches. Like, he just has no idea what it would look like to win a fight unless he's finishing it. Because he's had a couple of violent finishes in the UFC, and then every other fight, he'll outland you, but it's all low kicks that the judges are just not giving credence to. So he's like, how did I not win the fight? And it's like, because no one will remember one move that you did tonight. You know, so if Andrei Arlovsky at the end of the round throws one combination, he wins it. And that's exactly what he did. So that's for me where I see Aleksa Camur, and the stats say that he's not that good, right? He gets hit a lot, but he throws over 100 significant strikes against Nikolai Negumereanu. I think if he does that here, it's going to be very hard for him to lose, truthfully, because I feel like Tanner Boser will land cleaner, better shots for sure, but he'll land 60 of them. And I feel like this guy might land 100, just put the head in the chest and just outwork him. So for me, that's his path. He is not very good at fighting. If he wins this one and becomes a favorite in the next one, I will probably look back to fading. But just kind of rooting for upside, I just don't see it on Tanner Boser based on all that we've seen. And like I said, I felt like the Smoldera fight is the Kutalaba fight, is the other fights where he's been taken. The Latifi fight, I mean, what was 8 strikes landed total in the fight? Like, just these kind of fights he's had that are, you know, real red flags for me. But this is a really exciting one. Talk of the Twitter streets. And I know that you've got a play on this one, my man. So I'm going to tee you up. We got Diego Lopes taking on Gavin Tucker, another Canadian here. We got 2 Canadians, Cory Sandhagen, my guy Gordo, all the Canadians making their presence felt in Nashville. But one of them is going to be Gavin Tucker. And like you said, in his, you know, at the peak of his powers, very dangerous fighter. You know, I still don't know exactly what to make of this fight because speaking of Renzo Gracie black belts, I mean, we're talking about Team Renzo Gracie. We could put together 3, 4, 5 guys on this card. And this is another one of them, right? Gavin Tucker, Renzo Gracie, Halifax, Nova Scotia. So he's a guy that's kind of got, you know, the regional credentials, but he's one of the best regarded guys in Canada in terms of his skills, in terms of the level of work he does. He gets training with everybody. And he's just well known and well regarded. But you got a guy in Diego Lopes who really impressed. I bet him against Mosar Evloev +6, whatever. I just was like, this is too wide. I feel like it's going to be a dynamic grappling fight. I feel like he's going to give himself chances. And so I came away from that thinking, you know, maybe there was an argument he won the fight, but overall close fight. I'd bet it again. You know, that was kind of the way I saw it, but it's also styles make fights, right? That's a short notice fight. And now you're putting together this fight, bunch of preparation for both guys. The huge glaring red flags on the Gavin Tucker side, age, chin. So those are the big red flags. And Diego Lopes, there's some things to like as well in terms of who he works with, the level of championship training he's a part of right now, his coaching ability and everything else. So curious to hear your thoughts on this one, my man.
Yeah, I'm high on Lopes too. First off, I mean, he's going to have a 5-inch height advantage, 6-inch reach advantage. He's a big featherweight. Gavin Tucker, man, I'm high on Gavin Tucker. Like, I'm high on the Gavin Tucker of before. All right, so Gavin Tucker's well-rounded, southpaw kickboxer, excellent kicks, good boxing, great wrestling, good jiu-jitsu, black belt in jiu-jitsu. You see with Billy Q, he was able to take him down and actually control him, which is tough to do. Held up with the cardio on Billy Q, all that stuff, man. He checks out. He has a suspect chin a little bit. You've seen Ige was able to hurt him. If you even go back and watch Justin James fight him, Justin James had him rocked bad. Got him down into the club and sub guillotine, and he had to like shake his shorts off. I just watched it. If you remember, like Gavin Tucker's whole shorts came off. He was in his pink camo underwear to get out of that sub, and that's against Justin James, dude, hurting him on the feet. So the real problem is, in like I said, I like Gavin Tucker. I've been following him on Instagram for years. He's a great dude. But he had a major shoulder injury like a year and a half, 2 years ago, where he had a major surgery. And he's coming back at 37 years old. He hasn't fought in 2.5 years. He's only fought 4 times in the last 7 years. You know, he's not an active guy. But to come back at 37 off this major shoulder injury, I'm an old dude, man. I understand how when you get injuries at like older ages like this, it's not as easy to come back. And it's not like you're 27 and you're coming back in your 28, 29-year-old prime. Like you was in your prime at 34, you got hurt, now you're injured and coming, like your body's deteriorating anyways. There's just a lot of stuff. So to think that Gavin Tucker is going to come back and be like his 34-year-old self before a major injury, surgery, all this time off and stuff is just crazy. And then if you even think about it, when he was 34 to fight Lopes, man, this is a dangerous fight for anybody. Like, I don't care who Lopes fights in his whole career. Like, if you bet the other side, you're going to be sweating the whole time because this dude's dangerous everywhere. Lopes has that big size advantage. His striking's improved like leaps and bounds even since the Contender Series, right? When he fought Brito. So when he fought Movsar, his striking, his boxing looked way better. He rocked Movsar in the first round. There's like a debate that he could have won that fight because in the first round he rocked Movsar. He had him in a deep arm bar in the first round, and then in the fight third he ended it with 10 more seconds. He's knee barring him. You know what I mean? So like it's like you could have possibly gave him 2 rounds for almost finishing. Movsar was never close to finishing him, but so the dude's got the good striking and he throws crazy punches, crazy kicks with power because he don't care if he gets taken down. So he's got that advantage where he can just throw whatever he wants. Gavin Tucker's got kind of a chin issue. So Gavin Tucker's going to want to keep this fight standing, in my opinion, right? And then I think that Lopes can just put the pressure on him to either hurt him or just make him shoot on him like he did to Movsar. And then from there, man, he's going to hit him with something. If you go watch him fight Brito on the Contender Series, Brito's a high-level black belt too, and he's in his prime. And they say he's like, 27? That dude's 31, but he's still in his prime. But dude, Lopes almost had him finish twice, 2-3 times in that with guillotines. Like, I thought he was choked out from the first guillotine in the first round. So, and then what he put Movsar in, I just feel like he's so much more dangerous everywhere. He's the younger fighter. I feel like they gave him this fight. Like the UFC's like, all right, you came in on short notice and fought Movsar. Now let's give you a 37-year-old that's been out on a major surgery for 2.5 years in Nashville. You know what I mean? Like if you go back and look at all people that come in on short notice, and especially when they come in and take real tough fights, they get give-me's. Look at Marcus McGee coming up to fight, and he didn't even take a tough fight. He took freaking Journey Nelson, and they're like, all right, you beat him. Here, we'll give you JP Buys next. You know what I mean? So it's like they do you favors for doing them a favor. I got Lopes, man. I think that he can rock him on the feet and get the submission, but at some point I just feel like this fight's going to go to the ground. Even though Gavin Tucker is good, I feel like Lopes is just too good, too crafty. Hit him with some type of knee bar, arm bar, guillotine, something, man. But he's just so dangerous. I got him at -130. I put 3.25 units to win 2.5 units. I feel pretty good at that line.
I hear you, man, for sure. And I don't want my own chat to riot against me, right? If I pick against any more of these damn Renzo Gracie guys, they might come after me with pitchforks. So I might have to pick my guy Gavin Tucker in spirit here. But yeah, in terms of parting ways with my money, there just is a lot of red flags for me. You know, the things that I did find interesting is Gavin Tucker decision only. A lot of people have been hitting that market. I feel like that's his best chance to win this fight. You know, I feel like the ideal Gavin Tucker situation in this fight would be that he either just lands the better work at distance and outpoints him over 15 minutes for a kickboxing affair, stuff the takedowns, whatever it is, that would be one outcome. I don't see it as all that likely because, again, Lopes a little bit of a bigger guy. I just feel like the way that these two guys are, they'll be engaging in some grappling at some point. A lot of the offense from Gavin Tucker likes to flow through the clinch. That's for me the hardest question about this fight was Gavin Tucker. He's never been submitted, but like you said, he's only had 4 fights in the last 7 years. He got to fight to get submitted, right? But in addition, he's a guy that's got very short arms. He doesn't have very long limbs. He's kind of like one of these short, stocky guys, and I can relate a little bit to this, right? Like I'm a little bit closer to that build than one of these long, lanky Charles Oliveira characters or something. And so I do think that could give you some positional advantages, but it also means you got to be so aware. You got to be very cognizant. And a lot of what he likes to do is get really close to people. And you almost want to keep more space and keep your arms in tight. That makes it harder to grapple outwards and offensively when you're the smaller limb guy. So I just feel like there's a lot that's going to be working against Gavin in this fight. But for me, the thing that's interesting is you might be able to get Lopes at a better price after round 1 as well. He might finish him in the first round. But again, when you look at these kind of archetypes of fights, the way that they line it is if somebody wins the first round, they're going to change the line drastically. And Gavin Tucker at his best can get takedowns, can do these kind of things where even though he might not stay on top because he knows there's danger, he might try and go for a takedown. You know what I mean? And just mix in the threat like a lot of guys do to keep their striking more unpredictable, right? When you're a rote striker and you're kind of throwing the same combinations, mixing in a takedown attempt keeps the guy guessing. So for me, fascinating fight. Really fun one. And I'd love to see Gavin Tucker not be washed, but it's a big ask at 37. Like you said, major shoulder surgery, not many happy endings in MMA. So some things to be wary of there. Next up, we've got a fascinating fight here at light heavyweight where MMA math would tell you Dustin Jacoby is going to win this by knockout in round 1 because they faced a common opponent and it went way differently for both guys. But MMA is never that simple, right? We do have some interesting style dynamics here. For one thing, Kennedy Nzechukwu is massive. One of the biggest light heavyweights that you'll see. Lengthy. He's got reach. He can kind of leverage awkward positions. We've seen him deal with people on his back in really advantage grappling situations. They gas themselves out trying to hold on to this guy. He's a big body. He's not easy to get a hold of. He's not easy to move around. But he is kind of easy to land strikes on at times. And that's been his fatal flaw in the UFC, where a lot of guys are getting off on big shots on him. He's made some errors down the stretch, had a hard time focusing maybe for 15 minutes. See the Paul Craig fight, for example. But he's a guy that's shown a lot of promise. He's shown a lot of skills, definitely can get on top, can do a lot of good work. But Dustin Jacoby, against similar opponents, has gone out there and blasted out Da Un Jung in the first round. I didn't expect that. I thought Da Un Jung was going to win that fight. I think the line ended up flipping there. I had Da Un Jung as plus money. I think he closed a favorite. He got smoked, right? So Dustin Jacoby can still pack a punch, right? He comes from a professional kickboxing background. This is a guy who knows how to strike. He knows how to deliver his weapons. And if you don't block, if you don't defend, if you don't move, you could get lit up. He can get hurt, but he has really good ability to rally, right? He's a very difficult guy to put away. I feel like the way to get him out of there is to submit him, right? Because in kickboxing and those kind of things, yeah, he's fighting an Alex Pereira. Maybe that guy sleeps him, but he's very durable overall. Maxime Grishin had him badly hurt. He was able to work his way back into that. Kutalaba, I think a similar outcome there, 10-8 round in round 1, worked his way back into that fight. So Jacoby's a gamer. He wants to be out there. He wants to fight. He wants to win, and his back's against the wall here. 2 losses in a row. He really needs to get this one. Kennedy Nzechukwu, he's been getting the wins, but it's not been against a similar archetype. And I think a lot of people are going to flood his way here because he's got the physical advantages and he's on a 3-fight win streak. But the flaws are there. We've definitely seen them. I don't think he's fully shored up any of those holes yet. We just haven't been seeing the fights play out in the striking range as much. So for me, I think this is a fight where Dustin Jacoby by knockout in round 1 is very live. But the longer this fight goes on, Kennedy Nzechukwu just got that intangible way of building his way back into fights. If you let him hang around, he'll wear on you. He'll hang on you. He'll start grabbing a hold of you. And I do think his wrestling and grappling is improving. Whereas I think Jacoby is just trying to not wrestling grapple. His whole game is built around not getting into those exchanges. And when he does, wrestling his way back out of them, not jujitsuing his way out of them. So I feel like if it gets into pure grappling, Kennedy Nzechukwu does have some advantages here for sure, especially later in the fight. But every fight starts standing, right? They're going to come out here at distance, and Kennedy and Bzukja got hit with a couple of clean elbows from Daewoo Jung, and the fight was over shortly thereafter. He's been a very durable guy overall, but he opened as a dog here, flips to the favorite, and it's moving pretty significantly. I'm just not sure I agree. I feel like it's a closer fight on paper. Probably would put this, maybe minus 115 Kennedy, minus 105 Jacoby. I wouldn't be sure how to assign, big chalk in this situation. What do you think about this one, Cody?
Yeah, man. I'm with you on a lot of this stuff. This is a kickboxing fight. These dudes are both strikers, and it's going to be a striking fight. I think like Kennedy, I think his grappling is overrated. We've seen him grapple Carl Robertson, who is small as hell, and he was a middleweight that came up, and I think Kennedy just knew that's what he could do. But Dustin Jacoby's a big dude too, man. He's only going to be 2 inches shorter than Kennedy. Kennedy's going to have that reach advantage, but that Dustin's a thick ass dude. He's a big 205er, you know what I mean? So he's not I don't think that Kennedy, just his size, is going to just be able to grab Dustin and take him to the ground. Dustin showed pretty good takedown defense in most of his career. So I think that this is going to be a striking fight, man. And from there, dude, I think that Dustin Jacoby's the better striker, right? I was so close to betting Jacoby. I'm not confident on him, but I like to find underdogs too, you know what I mean? And I'm on my way to the casino to put in my 5th bet. And they hadn't released the lines yet for the over-unders. So I'm like, damn, I'm going to bet Dustin Jacoby, but I'm just thinking, I'm driving the whole way. I'm just thinking of all this stuff. And I'm so glad. I got to the casino, I went to the kiosk, the over-unders weren't up. So I went to the bathroom, came back. Thank God they were up, man, because I just didn't want to bet Dustin Jacoby. When I'm driving there, I'm thinking about it because the thing is, he shows damage really bad on his face. And he all of his fights, no matter who he's fighting, he's not really a knockout guy. Like you said, he knocked out Daewoo Jung, he knocked out Darren Stewart, but he's not really a knockout guy. He's going to piece you up with volume, kick your leg, jab you real good, hit you with the 1-2, good movement, decent clinch. But he fights all of his fights pretty close because he doesn't really knock people out. He's not using no grappling. It's just basically I'm going to land more leg kicks than you, move around against John Allen and a bunch of his other fights. They're pretty close. I mean, I thought he beat Khalil Roundtree, but that's why you lose, because your fights are so close. But I do think that this stays a striking match, and I think Dustin Jacoby's the better kickboxer. I think he's faster. I think he has the better arsenal. Where Kennedy doesn't throw any kicks. He's throwing a 1-2, and he's very low output. He'll be very low. That's why he lost to Neguramanu. You know what I mean? Even though he kind of didn't lose that fight, he poked him in the eye and all that. It shouldn't even be that close when you got all the attributes that he has in that fight and has stayed standing the whole time. But I just think that Dustin Jacoby's going to use that leg kick to really hurt Kennedy even early on, and then win that first round. And from there, the second 2 rounds are going to be really close. But I just like Dustin Jacoby at plus 140 as the dog here. I think he has better striking. I think this fight stays striking.
My man, tend to agree with you here. I always look at these cards as a whole as well, and you got a bunch of favorites. This is another guy who, opened as a dog. Now he's the favorite, and a lot of people are picking him to win this fight. And I just think that it's a volatile fight, right? Light heavyweight's a volatile division. I feel like the degree of certainty that you'd want to have, you want somebody that can get takedowns, like an Ankalaev, right? Think about he's getting leg kicked in that fight against Blachowicz. Everything's going sideways, but he had the takedowns to bail himself out. That's why people are big favorites. And I just don't know that it's going to be that clean and easy, to mix things up for either guy here. I feel like to your point, it's probably going to play out on the feet more often than not. And Bzukja's not the best pressure wrestler or anything like that. Maybe he could try and mix that in here. He's very physical, but Jacoby doesn't have terrible takedown defense either. So should be a contentious fight here. And I think that it's probably a little more honest than plus 140 would indicate. Next up, my man,
I see
fun fight. Oh, go ahead, please.
You're right. He just said Kennedy. It brings back bad memories where he's like Kennedy or Jacoby won that fight. He did. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of money on Jacoby, and I was on an 8-week winning streak, and that broke my winning streak. Was that Khalil Roundtree decision, dude? I was so mad. I was so mad for a while, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a brutal one, man. Hate those. They always sting. They leave a bad taste in your mouth.
So bad. So bad, especially when there's like Davey Grant was fine because I still ended up winning that week. Winning streak went on, but I lost an 8-week winning streak. I was trying to get to 10. So yeah,
I'm sure you'll do it again, my man, at the rate that you're going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But next up, my man, we got a fascinating fight where we've got Tatiana Suarez back in the UFC, had been away for a while, got that win back against Montana De La Rosa up at 125 pounds. Now she's dropped back down to the 115-pound class here. And for me, I kind of wanted to wait this one out, wait till weigh-in, see how she looks, because it's been a while, right? It's always hard to project how somebody's going to look during a weight cut. For the ladies, something that we don't always talk about, but it can be more difficult for them to plan these weight cuts when they're significant. So just want to see how she looks, want to see how she's feeling. I think that's something that I'll take into account here. But for me, definitely think that, Tatiana Suarez is a very dangerous fighter. And I think Jessica Andrade is a great fighter. She's made me a lot of money over the years. But in recent years, I have taken to fading her more often in some of these fights. And, the reason being is not because I don't like her. I think Jessica Andrade is a wonderful fighter, but she's had a million fights. She's been around for a very long time. She's been a champion. I'm not sure what her level of motivation is anymore. And she's talked about now before this fight, I'm going to stick at 115 pounds. I'm going to stop with the 125 stuff. But the truth is, most of her success recently was coming at 125 pounds. I noted in my research for this fight, her knockdown ratio at 115 pounds is 1-4. Which means she's knocked one person down. She's absorbed 4 knockdowns. And the stats don't always get it perfect. They don't always get it right. But that's very alarming, right? She's been knocked out in the first round on a number of occasions, ran into big shots from Yan Xiaonan, got flatlined there and dropped, got beat up in the clinch by Zhang Wei Li. Look at her career management, wins the title, goes to China to defend it 1 month later. Just like that doesn't make logical sense. No manager would ever suggest that you do that. They would say, take the leverage. You are now the champion. Wait until you have a good opportunity. But she's a company woman. She says yes. They ask, she says yes. And I think that in this case, she was supposed to fight Verna Jandiroba, another challenging test, but wouldn't have gotten her the same name recognition. She's a girl that already has wins over former champions. I mean, I feel like people are talking this week like we didn't see the Carlos Esparza fight, where I know it's been some time and I know there's been a gap between that, but that was the 115-pound champion. Right? She went back and reclaimed the title. So she's a championship level fighter. And Tatiana Suarez treated her like she was a bum, like she was not fit to be on the roster, absolutely dominated her in every position. So when I see that, it's very hard for me to ignore. When you go back and look at the Montana De La Rosa fight, I feel like I saw a different fight than what a lot of people are talking about personally, because a lot of people are telling me that she didn't look good in that fight. I thought she looked like a girl who had been out for a while and came out there and did exactly what she needs to do to win fights, which is leverage her physicality and her wrestling to make girls uncomfortable. She was in her face the whole fight. She was throwing big knees to the body. She was pulling on her head. She was trying to take her down. And when she would get opportunities, she hit single legs. She hit high crotches. She hit hip throws. She showed a dexterity of wrestling techniques. And then in the grappling, she looked more offensive than ever, hit the best guillotine she's ever hit because she's training with Patchy Mix, the New York guillotine assassin himself. So when you look at these kind of facts on the ground, I'm like, Tatiana Suarez to me looks like the clear side. She's a big physical woman. She's going to have the size intangibles here. You look at people that have given Andrade problems, they fit a lot of the same criteria. They're bigger women that can bully her physically, that aren't intimidated by her, that are willing to get in her grill and throw with her. And I think that Tatiana Suarez will grab a hold of her, throw knees to the body. She's not afraid to exchange in there. And I think that she will get takedowns. She will look to get on top. And I think she's a really, really dangerous woman in a lot of ways. I think she can ground and pound you. I think she can mat return you and slam you on your head, kind of like Andrade does to a lot of people. And I also think that she could sink in a submission in this fight as well. So I feel like she has many paths to a victory here. I think she's a very dominant fighter at her best. I haven't seen evidence from Jessica Andrade lately that she's taking her career as seriously. She was knocked out in the first round in May. She's back again. What did she do some training in the meantime? Did she work on her skills? Did she what happened in the interim to get better here? She's just going to try and run it out the same way again. Go big swings on the feet. I think her best chance to win this fight, God's honest truth, is to hit a guillotine in the first round, because we saw Tatiana Suarez, her last fight, kind of stick her head in the hole, looking for that, single leg against the fence. Yeah, maybe if she fully commits to a guillotine there, she can get that. She's got 2 of them in the UFC. She's very dangerous. She's a black belt. But I do not think she's going to be hitting the standing head and arm choke she hit on Amanda Lemos, right? I called the Andrade by sub plus 600. It was one of my favorite bets ever. I bet a full unit there. But that's it because the girl was a dancer like 6 years ago, right? She wasn't even a fighter. So that's a different story than somebody who is, again, like a real martial artist here, who's a real fighter in Tatiana Suarez, who lives the lifestyle, who trains with the right people, who moved from a gym that wasn't as good to extreme couture to get better work in. I feel like this is a girl who's on the rise. I feel like she's still a potential future champion. And I feel like Jessica Andrade right now has a lot to prove to get back into that kind of contention. She's dropped in terms of her ranking and her significance right now at 125. She was finished brutally. She came down to 115, finished brutally, and she's getting right back in there. Don't think that's a recipe for success. Give me Tatiana Suarez, TKO round 2.
Yeah, man. That's a good breakdown. Tatiana Suarez, to me, was going to be the 115-pound strawweight champion for 10 years. Like, I wish she didn't have all the injuries she's had. She had cancer early on in her life. That's why she wasn't the Olympic wrestler. Like, she's one of the most dominant female fighters you're ever going to see. She has some of the best wrestling. I mean, I would put her. I like her wrestling better than Sarah McMahon's, and she was a silver medalist or something in the Olympics. She's dominant. Her striking's not good. That's just a fact. But her grappling is phenomenal, and she's big at strawweight, man. And like you said, what's Andrade doing taking another short notice fight like this? Like you said, her management hates her, dude. Like, that's just ridiculous. So she's going to come in. She'll probably come in decent shape if she's making 115. Obviously, she planned on fighting here before. But like you said, she comes in, she throws wild hooks. She actually is like decent takedown defense. She has pretty good offensive wrestling. Like, she used to win a lot of her fights, even against like Claudia Gadelia, who had good wrestling at 115. She was able to take her down like 10 times. And then you've seen the slam on Rose Namajunas, but like recently it hasn't looked as good. But when she fought Erin Blanchfield, to be honest, she's just stopping all of her takedowns until she ended up getting, that was on short notice at 125, was stopping all her takedowns till at the end when she ended up getting choked out. And that was just, later in the fight, later in the second round. But Suarez is going to come with a lot more pressure than Blanchfield did. Blanchfield was happy to stand up and strike with her for a while, and Blanchfield's striking looks good. That's why it's not too bad. And I think she knew right off the bat that she wasn't in that much of a deficiency in the striking there. Suarez, though, is a different animal, man. Like you said, man, you've seen what she did to Carla Esparza. You've seen what she did to Aleksa Grasso. She freaking manhandled her and choked her out in like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. She takes girls to the ground. She gets them to the ground. She's got plenty of different takedowns. I've seen somebody said something about head and arms, but she's got plenty of different takedowns. Then on the ground, her ground and pound's phenomenal, and her jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. So she gives you the choice. Here, I'm going to punch you in the face and let you give up your back, and I'll choke you out, or I'll just punch you in the face, and then you can give up from that. So she's a beast, man. And I just hope, I know when she came back, she fought at 125 against Montana De La Rosa. And she said she just wanted to fight up at 125 just to get back to a fight. She didn't want to have to worry about cutting weight. She wanted to worry about getting to a fight without an injury. So she made it through all that. Now she's coming back down to 115. And if she comes back down to 115, and she's only 32, she's still in her prime. If she cannot have an injury bug, she can beat all these girls. I believe it. Her grappling is that good and dominant. And, so luckily, when I went to the bathroom and came back to the kiosk, they dropped the unders. So I went ahead and smashed the under 2.5 in this. I just put 4 units to win 2. Pretty confident in it. It's going to go one way or the other. Either Andrade is going to get lucky and land a big shot early on, or like you said, maybe pull a guillotine. I don't see the crazy arm triangle, but you never know. You never know. Or she's going to get dominated.
I already said if she hits that arm triangle standing again, I have to eat my shorts. If she does that to Tatiana Suarez, I'll have to eat my shorts. Shoeies, whatever. Y'all put it in the comments. Whatever y'all need me to do. If she does that one, if she guillotines her, then we'll be on even turf. But I'm saying if she does the standing at
same exact one,
I'll do whatever y'all put in the comments. That's fair game.
So I don't see that happening, man. I see Tatiana Suarez. It's like you said, dude. Andrade, she's just taking these big money fights and I don't even know how big a money is. I know the other ones, against like Blanchfield saving a main event, she got paid big money. But this, man, I don't know how big of money it was. So I'm taking Suarez. I think she finishes her in the first or second round. I don't think it's going to take more than 1 or 2 takedowns because Jessica Andrade has been finished 8 times in her career, right? And she will look for a way out when she starts getting dominated. Go watch any of her fights. Like Shevchenko takes her to the ground and starts beating her up. She's going to look for a way out. And she's not going to like the pressure that Suarez brings. Suarez is going to have 4 inches of height, 4 inches of reach. She's just the bigger girl. And if she can get on the inside and get the takedowns like I think she is, she's going to submit. She's going to submit Andrade with the rear naked choke like in the first round. And I could have bet the under 1.5. I'm just not a greedy mofo, but I think she gets it done in under 1.5, to be honest.
Yeah, man, I love where your head's at. In my Patreon breakdown this week, early on, I think on Monday, I said that my lean here, Suarez ITD, but most importantly, the under 2.5, because I feel like it covers so much equity in this fight. Covers both girls' primary win conditions. I feel like I do see a world in which Suarez dominates her to a decision if things don't go her way. But to your point, 7 out of 7 losses ITD are in rounds 1 or 2 in the UFC for Jessica Andrade. She gets finished quickly, and you could see it on her face. She gets frustrated, right? She's just a girl that likes to be having things go her way. And when they're not, she gets very frustrated, and the things can go off the rails extremely quickly. In the Yan Xiaonan fight, she's getting hit cleanly. And what happens? She says, all right, hands by my side. I'm going to run in and start swinging. Like, she's just like, I guess the fight's over in the next 3 minutes. Somebody's going to win. Like, and for me, that's something I don't want to bank on, where Tatiana Suarez, people were criticizing her last fight. Oh, she didn't get to where she wanted exactly. But think about at the end of that round, when she could have lifted and slammed for no reason with 10 seconds left. She just bided her time. She's like, all right, I got this round. Take some time, get some breath back. She's a smart fighter, and she just seems like she's very savvy. She's a competitor. To your point about the Blanchfield, comparison, I think Blanchfield and her have an inverse relationship in grappling and wrestling. What I mean by that is, like, Blanchfield's getting better at the wrestling every day, but her grappling is sensational, world class. Then you look at Tatiana Suarez. Her wrestling is sensational, world class. Her grappling's getting better every day. So I feel like that's kind of the thing, is like, in this fight, I expect she's going to get the takedowns much easier because she's so physical and she's so strong. But she might have to get 2 or 3 or 4 to finally get to the position she wants, or to get Andrade to start settling in those bottom positions. Like, Shevchenko had to return her a few times, but it was easy. So I feel like that's kind of the same archetype that I see here. A bunch of mat returns, dominant positions, and I would not be surprised if it's a TKO, as a matter of fact, just because of the way that Andrade has been getting hurt, the knockdown ratio, the way she shells up. The front headlock series was beautiful last time, but submitting a black belt's a little different. I think she can do it, but I think it would be, almost easier to just unload, get wrist control, ride the wrist down, and look for ground and pound here against Andrade, who was knocked out in May. So just a couple of things to keep in the back of our mind. But man, the one that we've been assembled for, the main event of the evening, the one I'm sure that's going to be taking your breath away in Nashville at the fights on Saturday night, Cory the Sandman Sandhagen taking on Rob Font at 140-pound catch weight here. Rob Font pulled in on short notice, but let's not be mistaken. He is obviously coming in with the background that he was training for UFC Boston. He was getting prepared for a high-level fight. So he's just, trying to peak quicker, right? That's all he really had to do here on short notice. He's trying to speed up, expedite that camp, maybe cut a little bit less weight so he doesn't have to, really torture himself down the stretch. Sandhagen, on the other hand, a guy who's kind of just going with the flow. He was going to take on Umar Nurmagomedov. Really difficult challenge on paper. Goes from being a sizable dog to a sizable favorite. Not too bad. And maybe a little bit wide for my taste, but does seem like a fight that on paper, he's got a lot of clear advantages. Number one, he's the guy who's probably more likely to work in his takedown attempts in this fight. Rob Font, he kind of goes with power doubles and things like that. But unless you're going to give him a very static guard and not try and get back up, I feel like he doesn't have a very good ability to consolidate top position. I think that Cory Sandhagen, on the other hand, showed off in his last couple of fights. He's been getting much better with his offensive wrestling and grappling. Still have some questions about how his defensive grappling looks against the best guys in the division, like Aljamain Sterling and these guys that we've seen in the past giving him trouble. But I do think that Cory Sandhagen, he shows consistent growth. He shows consistent ability to improve over time. Very fun fighter, very dangerous fighter. I think people forget about the spinning kick to Marlon Moraes, where he said, I broke his eye. Like, he's a savage out there too. Like, he's calling out what he did to you. He's letting you know, and he's competing for every position. I thought he won the TJ Dillashaw fight. Truth be told, very close fight, scrappy, contentious. I get why it went the other way. But another fight where if that had gone the other way, maybe we're talking about Sandhagen fighting for titles, not fighting on UFC Nashville main event. So he's a guy who's been right at the precipice in this division. He's very high level, but he's had a hard time getting over the hump. This seems like another winnable fight for him, another showcase type performance. And Rob Font is going to bring hell, but he's been getting touched a little bit in these fights. He's been getting hurt. A lot of people are saying he's never been knocked out. True. but he's been eligible for stoppage. You know, a couple refs that see it a little different go, wow, this guy's getting dropped every round. Like, we got to stop this fight. Some refs are just like, yeah, just let him keep going. He seems like a tough guy. Like, Rob Font will take a beating and stay in there, but he showed a lot of damage in these fights. He's been swelling. He's been looking pretty brutal in some of these encounters. And Cory Sandhagen can create a lot of damage. He can do it quickly with his kicks, with his punches, with his elbows, with his knees. He can move through space. I feel like he's a difficult challenge for Rob Font, who would prefer somebody to stand in front of him and be stationary. And Cory Sandhagen is almost never that. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, both of them on a full training camp. Like, I would think the line would be way closer, and I mean, I kind of think it should be closer just for the fact that, like, Rob Font's good. You know what I mean? He's got good boxing. He's got good pressure. He's got pretty good offensive and defensive wrestling. Most of them fights, like, even with Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera, both of the fights that he lost, like, he was winning the whole fights, and then he would just get dropped, you know? So it's kind of worrying. And then he looked good against Yanez, but he's just a boxer. Like, he don't really throw any leg kicks. He'll mix in some wrestling, but it's not serious. You know what I mean? He's just like, maybe try to steal a round or just change how the striking's going. But he's a one-dimensional boxer, but he's really good at it. Phenomenal jab, phenomenal 1-2, and his volume is crazy, but he just doesn't really hit that hard. I know it does. It looks like it against Yanez, but it's because Yanez wasn't using any striking defense. He just didn't take freaking Font serious at all and thought he was going to go in there and knock him out, and Font hit him. But Sandhagen, man, having 3 inches of height, I know Font's going to have an inch of reach, but Sandhagen's uses that height, uses his movement, uses his range, uses his legs a lot. So he stays out of boxing range for the most part. He's got the excellent flying knees and step-in knees and just pull knees. You know what I mean? When he's pulled, like Frankie Edgar, he's pulling you. He likes to be, because he's a counter fighter. So this is going to be a good fight for him against Rob Font. When he fought Marlon Vera, he actually wasn't countering as much. He actually came out and was being the aggressor, which I was pretty shocked at that, mixing in the wrestling. So he looked good. You watch him fight against Song Yadong, man, that was kind of a close fight. And it kind of showed that he wasn't dealing with Song's boxing all that well, but Song takes a shot so good. And Song also has way more power than Rob Font. So is backing up Cory a lot more. But he dealt with that by hitting him with step-in elbows and just taking advantage of your aggression, man. He's got crazy fight IQ. He's so much more versatile than Rob Font. Rob Font's 36 years old. I feel like he lost some years off his life from that Aldo fight and from the Vera fight, just the damage that he took. Sandhagen don't really ever take damage, you know what I mean? He's just a clean fighter. I think he's going to have the grappling advantage. I think he's going to be able to mix in some takedowns over Font's boxing. Decent jiu-jitsu. Font's hard to hold down. It's not like he's easy to grapple. You've seen in the Ricky Simone fight. Like, he's got excellent defensive wrestling, but I just think short notice, 36 years old, Sandhagen's just so much more versatile, have so many more ways to win. I'm going with Cory Sandhagen. I don't know if he finishes him, because it's like you said, man, everybody says Rob Font's so tough and he can't be finished, but he's not eating flush knees to the face and all that kind of stuff. Like, Marlon Vera hit him with some pretty good front kicks and that, but I'm gonna go with, like, I don't know if I don't do a ton of prop bets, but if you can do like Cory Sandhagen round 4 or 5 or decision, I would like that bet. But I got Sandhagen. I got him with Bahamondes, and I think this is going to be a good fight. It's not. I bought these tickets. I mean, I probably would have won anyways, but I bought nice floor seats, 7 rows back and all this. I wanted to see Umar Nurmagomedov, man, a possible champ coming up. Both these guys, Umar and Cory, because whoever won, they're on a championship path, it seems like. But yeah, man, I think it's going to be a good fight, and I got Sandhagen.
I love it, man. So we're largely in agreement. A couple dissensions along the way, and a lot of closely lined fights on this card as well. But I think that broadly we're seeing the board pretty similar, seeing some upside, seeing some opportunities to make money. That's what we always love to see. So definitely, it's been a pleasure, my man. I've had a blast breaking down these fights with you. Think that you've shared a lot of great insights with the audience. So want to just direct everybody right now, if you haven't already, please go get subscribed to our guy Cody's channel. All the information you need in the description box below, as well as on Twitter. You can find him there, dropping a lot of knowledge on your head tops, and he's sharing the links for his shows for where you can find him, doing a lot of great content. So, my man, any closing thoughts that you have, anything you want to get off your chest, the floor is yours, my brother. Thank you so much for being here, man. It was a blast.
No, it's just it's going to be a good show. I'm going to be there live, so I can't wait for that. It's only like 2 hours from where I'm at. it's going to be a good show. I can't wait to meet up with a bunch of people. If anybody in the chat is going to be there, man, let me know. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Blood Money MMA Bets. And then, like you said, YouTube links there. But if you're going to be there, want to say what's up or anything, man, hit me up in the messages. And I just appreciate the opportunity to come on this show. I've been watching you for a long time. It's a great show. You're a super sharp dude. And I like breaking down fights with you. You know, we got a lot of pros and the amateurs and everything. And it's good to be on great shows, man.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate it big time. I love what you do as well because you keep it very simple. You try and limit your amount of bets. You write it all out for people in very clear writing. I love it. And I noted it in my breakdown as well. The handwritten breakdown feels like it's got a personal touch. So my man, truly appreciate the time. Thought you did a great job. Welcome anytime. If you ever want to shoot the breeze on these fights, you ever need a guest or anything, just holler at me, my man. Always happy to do you a favor as well if there's ever anything I could do. So cheers to you. Cheers to the chat, guys. We had a great number of people rocking with us live, had a great conversation. Couldn't have done it without you guys as well. A lot of great contributions in the chat. So make sure you show some love to our great guests. Make sure you show some love to my guy, Gordo. The last closing thoughts that I'll give you here, folks, is if you haven't already, check out in the description box. I have over 20 documents for this upcoming UFC Nashville card. Already some documents starting to flood in as well for the UFC Vegas 78 card that's coming up next week. So the grind never stops. I'm already looking ahead to next week. Plus, we've got the Contender Series breakdowns that are going on this channel. If you're not subscribed already, you're going to want to get subscribed because me and Gordo breaking it down. The links are already up there. So if you guys go ahead, drop a like on there, turn on that notification bell if you don't want to miss the show, and we'll be back at you very soon. But in the meantime, God bless you all. I hope that you guys enjoy those fights. And until next time, come back and we'll have all the same fun again. Take care, everybody.
Oh, yeah.